Hello, and welcome to CanoeHound Adventures, a channel that brings you closer to the great outdoors.
Oh, this is craziness. It's hailing out here like crazy now.
Nastiness coming at us once again. Sky's like treacherously dark.
I did not work out your plan. Everybody's okay, we got all the gear.
Isn't that impressive? Ooh, another nice smallie. There we go.
Tell me this isn't the light. If you have some sort of a tarp shelter over top of you, you can have yourself a nice little controlled fire.
What are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. You'll be glad you did. Keep the adventures alive. Well, hey, welcome everybody to another edition of CanoeHound's Outdoor Adventure Show, a show that brings you a lot closer to the great outdoors. My name is Dennis, also known as CanoeHound, and hope you guys are ready for a good one. That there, what you just seen, was actually my new show, or my new channel teaser, I guess you can call it. Something that I just posted. I figured I would run it tonight instead of the regular introduction that I usually have, and hopefully you guys liked it. Adds a little more excitement to the channel, I think, over my past my past teaser, if you've ever seen that there. So, yeah. Anyways, for those of you that may be new to the channel, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We got a great episode on is your gear ready for the spring camping season, and we've got a few great personalities that are going to be on the show here that are going to help us and share some information about making sure that your gear is in great shape for the upcoming spring paddling, hiking, whatever it is outdoors, backcountry camping season. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. Just remember, our show is live here every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's why we're on right now, obviously. And make sure you mark that on your calendar so that you don't miss an episode. If you are new to the channel, like I said, you could also hit that subscribe button or follow us on Facebook at CanoeHound's Outdoor Adventure Show. And yeah, that's on Facebook, and you can actually be up to date on what's going to be happening with the channel, or you could also check us out on our new website at canoehoundadventures.com or .ca. Both of them will get you there, but let's just stick with the .com one. Before we do get on with tonight's topic, as usual, I'd like to let the chat populate over there, so I want to just go over a bit of news and some updates with the channel so that you know what's going on with us. Last week's show was a great stress relieving show. The week previous to that, we talked about this whole Ontario Parks fee structuring pilot system that they're running right now on a 2-year pilot program. And it was a pretty serious show. And then last week we had on a true Canadian voyager, Mike Ranta. If you're not familiar with him, look him up. This guy is a real character. He's traveled across Canada by canoe, not once, but 2 times. And he was on last week. He shared all kinds of really good stories with us. He had us laughing. I know this guy, my wife always says, you don't smile enough on camera. Well, I'll tell you, last week, man, I think I broke the smile meter because he had me grinning ear to ear throughout the whole show. And that was a great thing. So, Mike, if you happen to be tuned in tonight, thanks very much for making everybody's day. I know I had a lot of feedback by emails and comments and things of that sort. People telling me it was a great show, and they really enjoyed having a great laugh. He had a few serious moments in there, adventures, mishaps that he had with his dog, where his dog almost got taken out by coyotes on a couple of occasions, or wolves. And I'll tell you, but he brought it right back to life again with a story that there again put another smile on her face. So that's always a good thing. Another thing, on Wednesday night, the day after last week's show, we had our first only members live stream. For anybody that might be wondering what a member is, there's a join button if you're watching on YouTube. It's right down maybe around there somewhere. Check that out, because if you want to become a Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show member, it's a great way to support the channel. But we did have our first ever members only live stream. It was a good time. We had really good attendance. Most people were able to make it out, and we had so many people up on screen. We got to know each other. We got to find out what everybody's trip plans were for the spring season and what's coming up in the summertime. Some new canoes in some people's future, things like that. It was a really good time. But the main purpose of that show was actually to do a drawing for our members only swag giveaway that I have been talking about for the last 5 weeks, or 6 weeks actually. And that their package was a whole big pile of swag that's been given to me for this purpose, was to give back to you. And these we had so many people. Well, all channel members were automatically entered based on how many or what level of membership that they were at. And I just want to congratulate Joe Vrankovic, who has been a channel member for about a month and a half. And Joe walked away with the grand prize of about a $450 swag package. So congratulations to you, Joe. Thank you very much for your support. It's greatly appreciated, as it is all of my channel members. We also gave away a few consolation prizes. Joe Geronimo took away a little package. Beastly Ironworks and Jeremy Wallace. So there you go, fellas. Your stuff is all in the mail. So it's actually everything got delivered to the post office today. So it's on its way to you now. Let's see, where are we? Last week, I mentioned that I launched my Canoe Hound Adventures website. Be sure to check that out at canoehoundadventures.com. I'll just put that on screen for you here, so that in case you want to check it out, save it under your favorites. I've slowly been working on it. I've got all kinds of blog posts on there, things basically keeping the channel up to date. But I just added a new page, which is a resources page. And this is a page where you as a user can go on there and you could download different things. The first thing I have posted on there is my canoe or backpacking gear packing list. It's something that I've made known to everybody a bunch of times here. If you need a copy of it, go on there, just click a button. It's a PDF file. You could download it and you could do whatever you like with it. And hopefully you enjoy it, and it's going to be something good. So we got a lot of cool things. I would ask that if you do have any comments, go onto the new website, go to the contact us page, and fill out the form, and leave me a comment that way. I just want to make sure everything is working good and stuff like that. I want to make sure I'm on top of that stuff, so that you guys have that resource or a way to contact me. If I'm not out in the bush, I will be answering your questions, so that's a good thing too. Just want to really quickly thank our business supporters, as I always do. We got our good friends over at the Backcountry Coffee Company. Ceremonial cup. And yes, look, there is actually, if you can see it, look, there is coffee in there. It's not whiskey or anything else yet. But very good coffee from the boys over at Backcountry Coffee Company. Our good friends over at Kid Products, makers of the Kid Twig Stove and Reflector Oven. Our good friends over at Algonquin Outfitters, Ursac USA, Great Signs and Graphics, Short Hills Beard Company. Keep the scruff looking good, right? All their links can be found in the description below. Please do check them out. Support a small business if you have the opportunity, and that would be greatly appreciated. It makes them know that helping Canoe Hound also helps them, right? So yeah, by all means. Big announcement. See the new hat tonight, people? I've actually got a whole new batch of hats available. We've been selling patches and decals in the past, which are still available. But we do have some new hats available. We've got a nice black Canoe Hound Adventures hat. We've got a nice burgundy one. We've got the nice gray one. You see me wear this one almost all the time. And, of course, the camel. If anybody's interested in picking one of these bad boys up, there again, I'm not looking to break the bank on you there. They're $20 for the colored hats plus your shipping costs, because it depends where it's going, Canada, US, or whatever. But $20 plus whatever the shipping is. I'm not upmarking shipping, obviously. Or it's $25 for the camel version, and only because the camel versions are a little more expensive. If it's something you're interested in, drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. Say, yeah, I want a burgundy hat or I want a camo hat, and I'll let you know exactly what the price is going to be with shipping, and then you can make your determination there. You're not committed to it, but if you're interested in it, let me know. We'll get you all set up. I like this. I'm not a camel guy, and I actually like this. They actually got a really nice Velcro closure on the back. Very nice, comfortable hat. You know, they form well. So anyways, okay, enough of that. And then, of course, we still do have our patches and our decals available too. They're always available. And let's see. You know what? That's about it. Oh, if you buy a hat, I'm also going to throw in a decal pack for you for free as a bonus. Okay, so just another added perk. What the heck, right? And I think that's about it. If anybody has any topics or people that you would like me to see me have on the show, please do drop me an email right here at canoehound@gmail.com. As always, it'll go into my list, and I always do my darndest to make it happen for you. I'm always talking to different people out there, whether it's by phone, by internet, by messenger, or whatever it is. But I do get in contact with a lot of potential guests and stuff like that for the show. So keep the ideas coming. Right now, I'm getting a lot of repeats, and I'm really working on them. Some are going to be on the show later in the season. Some are going to be in next season. So that's all good, but we are working on it. And very last thing, if you want to participate in tonight's show, drop me a question over there. Just put your question in capital letters, question, and then put your question, and I will try to get it on, or if it's a comment about what we're talking about tonight. Or you can wait until the 8 o'clock hour after our swag giveaway. Join us on screen. Get to meet the guys and share your tips or share your questions with us. We'd love to see you on screen. So without further ado, let's move on here with the actual topic of tonight's show. Tonight, we are going to be talking about, is your gear ready for the spring paddling or hiking season? A lot of people do it in the fall or, after a trip, but it's essential to make sure your gear is ready now, to make sure it's all ready and you're not going to have any failures out there. Plus, last second stuff, you can start missing out on stuff. So tonight we've got 3 panelists that are going to be on screen. Our first panelist is somebody who really doesn't need any introduction, but I am going to introduce him anyways, like this.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cowan, the Happy Camper.
Woo! Yes, I'm Apostle number 14. Well, if you visited me instead, you would have been fine. It's one sexy beast, I'm telling you. I called you poopy pants. Sorry about that.
Did you really?
I will hold in my urine for you, Dennis.
You have to remind Kevin that this is a family show.
What about the chipmunks?
Awesome.
Hey, it's our good friend, Mr. Kevin Callan. How you doing tonight, buddy?
That's hilarious! I didn't expect that. That made my day. Now, is everybody getting their packs out? Oh, the smell of canvas with mold on it. Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
And the cooking pot. Oh, scratch and sniff. Oh,
You smell last year's cooking on that baby, huh?
yeah, that's fantastic.
Thanks for tuning in with us tonight, Kevin. I appreciate it. Let's get our next guest up. This person is also another frequent flyer on the show. He is a regular on the podcast Paddling Adventures Radio as their American correspondent. Our good friend from the Outdoor Kind LLC. We had John Van Berger. How you doing?
Hey, all right. How you doing?
Good to see you. Thanks for agreeing to do this tonight, throwing you into the fire once again.
Thanks for letting me be here. It's a lot of fun. I really like joining in on these.
Yeah, it's always a fun night, right? And then our last person came to me as a suggestion from Kevin, because Kevin knows a lot of people, and believe it or not, yes, I do. I confer in Kevin a lot there when it comes to different things. That's why, you know a lot of people, and you really help out, Kevin. It is greatly appreciated, and I'm sure everybody over there in the chat appreciated it as well. But our next guest also is an avid outdoorsman. He has a very successful business as an outfitting company, all kinds of gear. This guy knows his gear stuff as well. Please welcome to the stream from FRONTENAC Outfitters. We have Zach Fittis. How you doing, Zach?
Good, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Kevin, John, good seeing you.
Zach and I slept together.
It's true. It's true. Well, after some whiskey, I believe, as well.
Well, if you remember the story, Zach, we were winter camping, and you had the job of bringing the whiskey. I had some in my vehicle, so you said, no, just leave it. I have enough. You brought Mickey, okay? I had to go back out into the woods at night.
I think it was a Mickey. I think it was more than a Mickey.
It was a Mickey. Well, an Irish Mickey, which is 26.
Sure, fair enough.
So I had to go back to the vehicle to get my supply, and that's when the pack of coyotes were following me. But it was still worth it. We had a good time. So cheers.
We had a great time. Yeah, I look forward to doing it again for sure.
Yeah. So to everybody in the chat, okay. So the nice weather is quickly falling upon us here, right? You know, the ice is starting to break off the lakes, even up in the northern regions, and you know, everybody's getting that buzz where, okay, now the season's coming, you know, even amidst this whole pandemic, the season's coming and we want to get ourselves out there and hit the water or hit the trails, whatever your poison is, right? And you have to ask yourself, you know, have you maintained your gear, or have you done the proper maintenance to your gear to make sure that it's ready for this season, so you're not caught scrambling last second? What I want to do tonight is I want to try and break this into about there's like 10 different sections. It could probably relate to more or less, who knows, but we're going to start with paddles and watercraft and your PFDs. Okay, so what do we need to know about that? Zach, let's start with you. You're a big canoe guy. You sell a lot of canoes. I'm sure you see a lot come in on rental repairs and stuff. What should we be doing to our canoes, paddles, PFDs to get them ready for the season?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, a quick inspection, make sure that the mice haven't got to your PFDs, the mold hasn't got to them. Keeping them dry and clean is going to be the best thing, but checking them over for any damage. Canoe seats are another one. Again, it's rodents over the winter are generally the most damage that we see caused. And then and wood components that have dried out and rotted. You know, check that canoe seat, make sure when you sit on it, it's not going to bust on you. So if it's looking like it's about to fail, I would probably replace it. Same with the yoke. Nothing worse than a yoke snapping on you halfway down a portage. So,
yeah. Well, like when you get into, maybe Kevin, like when you're getting into your paddles and stuff like that, I think you were just saying that you wrote an article for Explore magazine about paddle maintenance and stuff. Yeah,
paddle and also canoe maintenance. So, just like everybody right now, spring has sprung and there's a warm day. So I get all my canoes out and all my paddles out, and I spend the day. And I got like 12 canoes, and I also got like a lot of paddles. So it's a full day. So I get the varnish and I get the oil out. So the first thing is I varnish things that are not or are stationary, like the yoke, the seats. I can varnish those, but I don't like varnishing the gunnels or my paddles, because varnish basically puts a layer of plastic, almost like plastic, over it. And when it heats up, it gets frail, it gets brittle, and then water gets in, and then it turns gray. And when it turns gray, then you're going to get mold and mildew set in. So I like oiling my gunnels and my paddles. I use the hemp oil. Actually, Badger paddle makes a really good hemp oil. The reason why I like hemp oil is that it repels moisture as opposed to what's linseed oil. Linseed oil brings moisture and mildew in. You have to put 20% of what's called wood preservative in linseed oil if you're going to use it to make it work. So if you can get that hemp oil, it's fantastic. And the only problem with oiling as opposed to varnishing or putting like linseed oil on or whatever is that you're going to have to do it once or twice a year. Well, maybe, like John, like he really doesn't paddle that much, so you probably have to do it every 5 years, John. Yeah, but real paddlers like myself and Zach and Dennis, we have to do it every week. In fact, every day we have to oil our paddles because we're out so much.
Yeah. I wish I could be out that often to have to do it. But what did you say? Like, what's the frequency that you should actually be oiling your paddles?
So once or twice a season. And what I do is I put that oil on. And I make sure I put it on the part of the gunnels too, and a lot more on the shaft than the top and the blade of the paddle. And then I wipe that clean, and then I get a 100 or 400. What's the really fine sandpaper?
The higher the number, the
Yeah,
finer
400. So
finer,
I get that, and I don't scrape it. I buff it with that, and then wipe that clear, and that just actually helps out the oil. And then you got to wait for that to dry for 2 to 3 days. You can't just oil paddle and then go paddling. It doesn't work that way. You can put all the other components we talked about on, and then maybe 2 hours later go off paddling. But if you use oil, especially hemp oil, 2 or 3 days in the sun to dry before you take it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all really good info. And because Kevin, if there's anybody that buffs his paddle with oil, it is Kevin, and he does it a lot. So he knows his stuff.
We're talking in the green room about oiling the shaft, and John happened to walk in at the last second, right?
And I gotta say, poor Mike Ranta. I went on last week for like 5 minutes. All I talked about was portages and penis lengths. For the love of God, you should have stopped me, Dennis.
And that's why Hap Wilson said in your intro, you got to remind Kevin sometimes this is a family show. He hit it right on the head there. So John, you're more of a kayaker, right?
I'm actually moving more into the canoes now, but
Okay.
but yeah, I
You
know
ruined that segue.
no, but I still have the kayaks. I still take them out a lot. The big thing, if you have a kayak that has, you want to keep those, particularly if you have a plastic boat, you want to keep them out of the sun, right? Because then eventually that's going to break that down, the oil can on you. But in terms of like seasonal maintenance, a really great thing to do is if you have a rudder, is to go ahead, clean off the channels and down to your foot pegs and everything to make sure you get the gunk out of there. And then go ahead and take some, if you get some bicycle lube, like chain lube or motorcycle chain lube, you can use that and get that into the rudder cables. And then that will help, tip the boat up, get that in there, let it work in. That will help a lot too. Make sure that the rudder, make sure that the nuts and bolts are all still there and tightened up. Make sure that you have lock washers on those, or you could have a rudder fall off, like we talked about probably about a month ago now.
Yeah.
So those kinds of little repairs. Go ahead, take some, get a couple of extra nuts and bolts, put them into a Ziploc, throw them into your emergency kit. We can talk about putting together an emergency kit later, but make sure that you have those with you too, right? And that way you've got all that stuff. If you have a problem out in the field, you're squared away. In terms of PFDs, there to try to, to add to everything that they've said here, just try to keep them out of the sun when you're storing them. They don't like bright sunlight as much either. So, if you have, like in my garage, there's windows. So I always have to watch what I have sitting where to keep them out of the sun. That will extend the life a little bit. So, let's see what else. I think that's it.
I was going to say, what about your paddles for a kayak? Usually they're not made of wood. Usually they're made of some sort of composite material, right?
Yeah.
What would you do especially to maintain something like that? Like coating a wax on there, or is there anything special you can do to that?
I don't. There's what I do to make sure is that those connection points are clean. Get those cleaned out so that they fit well, and that you're not trying to bend those apart to get them apart when you're out in the field, right? So you got a nice, good, clean fit, clean and smooth fit at the start of the season.
Yeah. One thing that I typically do, I've got a nice carbon fiber kayak paddle that I use for my Swift boat, right? And I will spray. I'll use silicone. Spray a little silicone on a cloth and just wipe it. And I'll tell you, it just makes that whole connectivity just like it slides together like butter, right? So it any connecting pieces where you have one piece that needs to join to another, a little bit of silicone spray and then wiped off quickly will really do a nice job for that. So,
yeah, Zach, did you say something there? I couldn't hear.
I was just saying any sand for those connection pieces is a nightmare. And Dennis, honestly, I wouldn't recommend using any kind of lubricant on any two-piece paddle at all. Keep them clean, fresh water. If it ever gets tight, it's because there's some grit that has got inside of it. So a good cleaning with some really, really fine sandpaper is going to be the best for it. Any application of any chemicals can cause ill effects down the road as those chemicals. Okay. Yeah, it can react with the epoxies on your paddle. So
okay, I would. That's why we're having this show, is so that we can all learn, right? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Zach,
people are always tempted to, for sure. Yeah.
Zach, I got a question. So what I do, tell me if I'm doing this wrong as well. So I don't have any indoor storage, and I have a lot of canoes, so I have to store them outdoors. I try to keep them in the shade in the wintertime as much as possible, because sunlight is the worst enemy, right? And I also don't put tarp over them because moisture will build up. I'm assuming that's a bad thing. But what I do is I use the boat, or sometimes if I don't find it, I get that car buffer and I buff them to shine them all up. Is that okay?
I mean, as long as you're using, if you've tested it on your boat and it works okay, and you're using a good marine grade type of wax, especially on a gel coated boat, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It adds that that protection to the hull, to the gel coat, and gonna add life to and keep that dulling away from the canoe for sure.
Okay, and the only thing I will look at the bow and stern gunnels, because that's where they're going to rot mostly. And I had a problem 2 years ago where the canoe almost fell apart because I didn't fix it before my trip with Speedo Man. He was very upset with me. But the one thing I will actually go, once I buff it, I'll put my thumb across it, my thumbnail, and if my thumbnail goes into the groove that I can't move my thumb anymore, I'm assuming that's going to get worse, right? So I'll put a fine thing of gel coat on it. Am I getting too extreme?
I think you're getting a little fussy, man. I mean, everyone's a little different. Me personally, it wouldn't bother me until there's actual crack, like one of those spider cracks has formed. And then there's a risk of water getting in behind the gel coat. And even in season is not a big deal. What's going to happen, though, is in the wintertime when you go to put that guy away, that water is going to freeze and cause that gel coat to blow out, and then you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands. So I would just, throw a sticker on it, get a happy camper sticker or something and slap it on the crack, and just paddle a Canoe Hound sticker for sure. Paddle around for the rest of the season and fix it in the fall before the winter.
Yeah,
that's good.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, so Keith Park here, Zach, I believe you're familiar with Keith. He's asking about treating a poly kayak. Do you use 303 protectant? I see a lot of thumbs up for that one.
Yeah, for sure. It's great stuff. You want to be careful. Obviously, that stuff doesn't stay on a boat, so be mindful that is going to end up in the environment. The best thing is keep it out of the sun, but 303, it is great stuff. I use it mainly on hatches for kayaks to preserve the rubber of the kayak hatch, and that's what goes over those bulkhead seals. It keeps them supple, keeps them lubricated, getting on easy, taking them off easy, keeps them from drying out and cracking. So I wouldn't worry so much, again, about the actual kayak itself, but if you've got an old kind of faded boat, the 303 will help kind of add a little bit of shine back to it. It also makes it super slippery, so if you're going to be planning on doing any rescue practice or anything like that, it makes it really, really hard to kind of get a grab onto that boat because your hand's just going to slide all over it.
Yeah. And who makes 303, and where can that be purchased?
I believe the company is 303, and they have a bunch of different kind of products that they have under their umbrella, much like Armor All. We do normally carry it here. I haven't had it in the shop over the winter, but a lot of marine stores will carry it. Some Canadian Tires sometimes have it. It's not cheap, but a little bit goes a long way. So,
right. So, but after all, it is an investment in your gear too, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And it will last a long time. The other thing, if you Google 303, I think it's called aerospace protectant, or at least that's what they used to call it. You should be able to find it there. And what Zach said about, you've got that on your boat. It's a really good thing to get it on there and then buff it off buff out as much as you can. But it will be very slick. So that's something you need to watch. The other thing, when we're first taking out take it if you have your kayak stored outside or anything, or barn, or shed. One thing I always check is make sure that you don't have any small animals in it. That's always something you want to do. I found out that a raccoon had gotten into a Wilderness Systems boat that I had, and it smelt a lot like a cat litter box when I pulled it out. And now when it gets wet or really humid out, it smells like a cat litter box still. So
you can't get rid of that smell. That's super difficult. Rodents are the worst. They are the absolute worst for any boat. I mean, especially in kayaks, if they get inside of that kayak over the winter and nest in there, it is almost impossible to get rid of that smell. So yeah,
that's the boat I think, friends.
Yeah.
The one thing about the gear we're all talking about too, is the fact that if anybody's like me, and I'm sure most people are, you get what you pay for, right? So you're investing a lot of money into your gear, and what you're doing by maintaining it like this is actually you're protecting your investment. You're going to make that product last so much longer than it would if you didn't actually maintain it. For instance, like an MSR stove, you clean that thing out, that thing's going to give you years and years of usage, right? It treats you back tenfold with the way you treat it. So yeah. Zach, question about life jackets. Do they carry expiry dates on them?
No, not technically. Honestly, it's really going to depend on how much it gets used. And that's the biggest determining factor. You see some pretty ratty PFDs out there that are totally sun faded. The straps are almost falling off of it. And they can, get to a point where they just don't float well anymore. The foam breaks down or almost gets waterlogged inside. So if you do go for a swim, it'll float really well, and then all of a sudden it doesn't float so well. And generally, I think kind of the industry consensus is about 10 years, with an average use. If you're a raft guide on the Ottawa River, you're probably going to go through a life jacket a little bit more than, someone who gets out a couple times a year. But, I would plan for roughly about a 10-year lifespan for a good PFD.
Okay, and what's the best way to store it? I've seen all too many people, they'll just take it and they'll throw the thing into a corner or into a hatch in their boat when the thing is damp or wet, which is going to induce mold, mildew. It's going to not become a pretty piece of equipment anymore. Best storage things like during the season and in the off season.
For sure. Dry it and hang it, that's going to be the best. If you have to store it, away, like put it in a bin, out of the sun, but make sure it's, totally dry when it is put away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And is there anything that you can do to treat a life jacket?
I mean, you can wash them in like a dunk tank with some mild soap, to kind of clean all the sweat and stuff off of it. Hang it up to dry really well. Some people will use products like 303 on those things. I'm not a big fan of treating with chemical like that, but you can do it. Another thing what 303 is really good for if you own a dry suit is the gaskets on the neck and the wrists. That will, if you apply 303 a couple times a year, it will prolong the gasket life incredibly. So it'll help them from dry rotting and splitting and getting all manky and splitting, sticking together and stuff. So.
Okay. And one last question here on this topic, then we'll move on to tents, hammocks, and tarps. But Matt is asking, he has a cedar strip canoe that he's restored many years ago or built many years ago. And he's wondering what he can do to preserve cane seats. They blew out a seat and can't get a new cane. So is there anything in particular you can use for that?
I don't have an answer for him. Cane seats are impossible to find, and they're rare. Kevin's probably the wood lubing expert here.
Yeah.
You lube your wood often, Kevin?
Oh, stop it, guys! For the love of God, boys! I'm just telling you. It's really hard once they fall apart, and they will fall apart. I was really lucky once. I went to one of those antique places in some small country, and they place out by Lake Simcoe, and I found a whole sheet of cane.
Wow.
And I also once bought one of those Rickard cane chairs, and I cut that off and I used that. I mean, that's desperation, right? But there was a certain point on that canoe though where I just took the cane off and put another seat on.
I used lacing. Two things I did. I got old car seats, and I used car seats for the straps for the seat, and I tried the old boot lacing, and it looked nice. So.
Yep. Cool. Alrighty. Let's mosey on over to tents, hammocks, and tarps. There again, a tent can be a really big investment for somebody. You can get anything from like a one-man tent all the way up to the party tents. You can also get your hammocks, which are very comfortable for those that enjoy them. And then of course you're trying to stay out of the rain. You got tarps. Let's start with tents there. Let's talk about the best way to preserve them, keep them rainproof. Anybody?
Yeah, I mean,
John,
Gearing puts out a bunch of great products. So if you've got an older tent, you can kind of re-waterproof them, add seam tape to them to kind of bring them back to life. So if you got a tent that's 10 years old and starting to leak at the seams, there is things you can do to kind of help save it and bring it back to life, so you can get a few more years of use out of it, for sure.
Yeah. You can actually buy seam tape to say for instance to retape the seams on your fly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if it's so much a tape. I'm sure you could get a tape, but there's a lot of adhesives, type products. Gearaid's the one that comes to mind. We sell at the shop here, but it's there's a few different applications for it. But one, it's almost like a glue or a silicone almost that kind of goes along the seams. To just kind of give them a bit of extra life, so you can extend the use of the tent.
I guess one thing too is to start with a good quality tent, right? Be sure to stay away from. I would say, and a lot of people might argue this one, but stay away from the Canadian Tire brand. Go with a good quality brand, and you're going to pay for it, but you're going to get a tent that's going to be waterproof off the hop.
For sure. I got a funny story about that. So no offense to the Canadian Tire tent users, but we did a 16-day trip down the Grand Canyon. And, I'd say, most of us on our group, it was a self-guided trip. Most of us were prepared for that type of endeavor. And first night, one of our guys pulls out this tent, and it's, sure enough, a Canadian Tire tent. And we're like, oh, all right, well, yeah, you should be fine. I mean, it'll be all right. I don't know what night it was, day 10 or whatever. And, I ended up sleeping on the raft most nights under the stars, and it was amazing. But all of a sudden I woke up and I feel a couple drips on my face. I'm like, uh-oh. Run to scramble, set up my tent, and the wind just absolutely kicked up. And by the morning time, well, actually, sorry, not even, you could just hear the tents just howling. And I kind of stick my head out, and Buddy's like out hanging on to his tent. It's about to take off. I mean, there's no fly on it. There's no way to stake this thing down properly. And yeah, he almost kissed that thing goodbye. It barely survived the night. So it was his experience. He was like, well, I thought it was a good one. It was like $50. And I'm like, yeah, it's, that's why some tents cost $500 and some cost $50. So
yeah, I learned my lesson.
Everybody in a $300 tent had a fine night. They didn't even know there was a storm that night. So
yeah, I learned my lesson early on in my camping years that cheap tents are not good tents, right?
No.
By all means. For years I used Eureka tents. One of my favorite tents is the Eureka El Capitan, which is a 2-person tent. And I used that thing for years and years and years. And finally, after many years of being in the sun and in the rain and through all the elements, it finally started dripping, the odd drip here and there along the seams. And then I retired it for a hammock, which I guess now is my preferred sleep system, right? So,
sure.
Yeah. What about storing a tent? People, there's always the great debate: are you a stuffer or a roller? Anybody got any takes on that?
Stuff. It's called the stuff sack. You got to stuff it.
That's what I say too. How about you, Kevin? Are you a roller?
No, but I have yet to be around stuffers. I'm feeling good about myself. I usually mention that I stuff, and everybody just goes nuts on me, saying, "What's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you."
Can't be bothered, man. It's like you got to have like a math degree to be able to fold those things up properly to get them back into that stuff bag. I don't know how they do it once at the factory, and I'm like, that's never going back in there like that again.
I know, right? Because they make the bag just to fit that thing like a glove, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I hope Christina's watching, because she's a folder and roller. And thinks I have some mental issue because I stuff. What I do is well, when I'm out on trip, I stuff it in 2 separate containers. So I have 2 separate stuff sacks. So I stuff the fly of the tent in one stuff sack and then the body in the other, because the fly is always going to be wet, whether it's rain or it's due in the morning.
Sure.
So I'd rather just stuff the wet thing in the wet bag and then keep the body separate. Just, you always got to remember the poles. So I put a big, huge red flag on the poles so I don't forget them on the ground. Not that I've done that before. But when I'm during the winter, in fact, I got everything out today. I make sure they're out of their bag and put in a bin so they're not compressed. Because if there's any grit or dirt, whatever, sand, whatever, and they're stuffed together in there, that's not going to be good for the tent. So, and I also put a tarp inside the tent when I'm tripping. A lot of people will disagree with me. It doesn't really matter. You do whatever you do. You be you. I'll be me. But I will keep a lot drier because of that. Because when the water sort of gets below the tent and then it seeps through the bottom, and it will, doesn't matter how much you spend on that tent, at least you have a barrier between it. So if you put the tarp on the outside, it creates an area for water to gather, right? And people are, no, you need the footprint outside the tent so it actually doesn't weather the bottom of the tent. If a bunch of sand and rocks are going to weather the bottom of your tent, you might as well just ditch it, right? I mean, but again, that's just me.
Yeah. And
my thing on rolling up a tent for storage, I always thought that you're going to keep causing creases if you roll it or like fold and roll in the same way all the time, right? You're going to get that hard crease line, which eventually is going to end up fatiguing the material. So that's always been my reasoning behind being a stuffer, right?
Sure.
Dennis, did you see Martin's comment? Kevin has all sorts of mental issues, but stuffing is not one of them.
I got a question here I'm holding on to by Joshua. So, Joshua, I'm going to get to your question here in a minute when we start talking a bit about hammocks. So,
yeah, I think to stay on topic, I think a good routine practice for this time of year, like John had said, is do like a quick weekend trip, or at the very least, set up your tent in your front yard or your backyard before you go out. Somebody in the comments had mentioned checking tent poles. Absolutely. Make sure there's no hairline fractures. Make sure the shot cord's in good shape and not rotted out. These are things that you would want to find before you get out there and have to deal with it's a fixable problem, but it's super annoying if you get out there and you snap a tent pole on your first night. So
yeah, nothing smarter to do than when you're pulling it out for the first time, getting ready for a trip, go set it up. Like Zach said, set it up in your backyard, leave it in the backyard. And you know what? If you have threatening weather coming, leave it set up in the rain overnight, and then go check it in the morning and look in the corners for, any puddling that might happen in there, or, something running down the inside of the fly, so that you could actually nip it in the butt and get these things waterproofed or seam sealed once again. Who here on panel carries seam sealer with them when they go on a trip?
Well, there's 3 things, and I did this today because I was doing my gear stuff today. It was a beautiful day. I put fresh seam seal on it before trip. I mean, I'll bring a fix aid kit for stuff, like especially one of those pole breakers. Like it's a little piece of aluminum, so if your pole snaps, you can actually put your pole together. But I also put bungee cords on all my guy ropes, because when the wind is going like this, well, it's not going to ruin your tent, because look at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the other thing I did today? I did 3 things. I forgot the third.
I hope you were marking some papers, but that's...
No, I know. I know. I almost wasn't on the show tonight. I had things to do, Dennis. I have a job.
I know. You're a busy dude. You are.
But no, I forgot the third thing. It was really important. Vaseline on the zippers. Sorry, Vaseline on the zippers.
Yeah. You actually, like a scoop of Vaseline, you run up and down the zipper.
So seam seal on it today. The Vaseline down the zippers. Vaseline on my raincoat zippers as well. I wash my raincoats too. And that
John is saying no to the Vaseline.
I'm just not touching that one, man.
Oh, okay. Family show.
Am I only civil one here tonight? For the love of God.
It's spring, right? I don't know.
So I got one tip for people that, and this here was learned through experience, and it's funny because it's happened to not myself, but like my dad, and it's happened to a good friend of mine. where at nighttime they decide they want to try and keep the bugs away or outside of their tent, and they get in there with their can of off or muskol and they start spraying the inside of their tent, right?
God.
First thing to go, screens. That stuff eats their screens. Like, I mean, just eats it. So don't do it, okay?
Use this because it's not alcohol-based. It's water-based.
Yeah, well,
So
don't do it at all.
It's really strong with heat, so I love it. Or like use something like that. And that's a lot better on your – I mean, I remember when I worked in forestry, you weren't allowed to spray your head because your hard hat was plastic and it would melt it. Like it would melt your hard hat.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be all that great. But it's strong stuff. But this I really like this because it's water-based, not alcohol-based. So it's not as harsh on things. Yeah. And look, and you have these little tiny – look at that. I got these out of I love these things. They're just like – little talouettes, deep talouettes you can put in your pocket.
Yeah, and then Kevin, you were mentioning too about letting your tent breathe over the off season, right? Packing it in a tote box or something, as opposed to keeping it rolled up. Another example there, my same cousin that sprayed all his stuff. He had, you know, how some tents they got like a little plastic window on them so you could see out type of thing. Totally rotted away. Rotted away. Now, I don't know what the result of that was or why it happened, but I'm assuming it's because it was. Yeah.
Zach will confirm this, but don't ever buy a tent with a window in it. I've never heard any good stories behind that.
Yeah, it's a cute idea, but man, they work for a couple months and then you can't see anything out of them anyway.
Yeah.
If it's raining, well, you know it's raining. I mean, I don't know. What do you want to look at? Like
the other thing with flies to do is when you're looking. You're inspecting your gear before you go out. Hold that up to the light, whether it's up to the sun or like in your house. But hold that up to the light because if you have pinholes in there, you may not see them outside when you have that thing set up. But if you hold that up to the light, you could see some of those. And as flies get bad over time, particularly over time, you'll start to see little pinholes appear. And in a big rain, that's going to be.
That's an opening. Water will get through that for sure. Yeah. What about repairing a tent? You have a burn hole from a spark from your fire, or whatever. You have a small tear. Any suggestions as to how you should repair a hole like that?
Gear Aid.
I know you have products.
There's little patches again. Gear Aid. They do a lot of great stuff for gear maintenance. They've got used to be called. Went by a different brand. I can't remember the name of it now, but they've got the vinyl patches that are designed to go on like polyvinyl tarps and flies. They've got little mesh patches to go on. If you get a hole in your mesh, they're the ones who do all the seam grip. All these repair adhesives. They're the guys that make this stuff, and they've got an application for almost any outdoor related maintenance or repair for sure.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Let's throw ropes into this whole mix too. It was supposed to be further down in the section here, but ropes come into play when it comes to using your tarp. When you're guying out your tent. What should you be doing for any ropes? Like we mentioned about the paracord, right? How it's great rope, but I'll tell you, it's hard to maintain that stuff. It snags easily. Are there any tricks or tips that you can do to maintain your ropage?
I don't. None that I know of, other than buying better rope that's got a tighter weave on it. I mean, it's I don't know. Rope. I mean, good rope's expensive, but when we're talking about the minimal amount of paracord you're using for guying out a tent or whatever, if it starts getting ratty looking, just replace it. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
You can reuse it likely for something else as well. If it's there's a million uses for it. But I mean, if you're talking about a 4-foot section of paracord for the guy line for your tent, and it's getting ratted up, then toss it, replace it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use paracord just for even for their tarps for the ridgeline. To me, in my opinion, a little too delicate for that. It'll probably hold. But you can't get the tautness that you need. You'll always get a sag. If you get a rain, you'll always get a sag in the middle. You
Absolutely.
Should beef up your rope system for that, right?
Because I'm a Canadian writer and I have no money like Zach, I can't just buy rope just like that, Zach. I get vinegar. I did this today, and all my
Yet
guys.
he could buy a big dragonfly to hang off his hat, right?
This is hilarious. This thing works. Have you seen this? This is I bought this at the Toronto show when we had a Toronto show 2 years ago. I bought that as a joke. I thought they were a joke.
Yeah.
Deer flies, they're amazing. You put a piece of duct tape on your head backwards too, and the deer flies die on it. Anyway, so my guy ropes for my tarp and my tents today, I got vinegar and warm water and a sponge, and I clean them off because you'll get mildew for them through the winter, right? I got bad storage where I live because it's a very small place, so a lot of my stuff stores out in the shed in the back, which in theory is covered in a tarp, but it's going to get wet, right, or damp.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then alluding to that there as well, we've got Joshua, and I told you I'd get to it, Joshua. Is there anything better to get sap off hammock tree straps than dish soap? Everybody's had that pine tar on their hands, or what's good to remove that stuff? Anything?
Fire. I don't know.
I've tried hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And that stuff is that's nature's glue right there, right?
Oh, big time, yeah.
Yeah, I use hand sanitizer with a toothbrush, or I'll put it in the sink with lukewarm water and vinegar and let it sit for a while. I mean, it doesn't do it perfectly, but with a toothbrush, just so you're not washing the entire.
Gets rid of that initial stickiness. I don't think you'll ever get rid of the actual sap. I mean, it gets into everything. But if you can get rid of the blob of it without making too much mess, I think you're ahead.
Kevin, how does Christine feel about you using her toothbrush to try and get the pine tar off?
Don't tell her.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell her. And speaking of that, that's the other thing I did today. Where is it? I got all my toothbrushes in my kit and boiled them. Because think about it. You put those away on your last trip. Did you clean them? You put them in the holder. I got them here somewhere. But oh my God, they got to be disgusting.
$249 for a new toothbrush.
Well, see again. Back have lots of money, but
or go to the dentist. They usually give you one for free.
That's right. I save all those.
Who's going to go to the dentist during COVID? For the love of God!
I know. One thing I do when I get pine tar on stuff is I dirty it. I'll dirty it. I'll get it in like not in pine needles and stuff, but like you find yourself some dirt and you get that in there, and I find it'll help get rid of it over time, and it's no longer sticky, right? But you got to get into it pretty good. So dirty it up. Yeah.
Oh, so someone's saying nail polish. That's a good idea. Or WD-40. That's a good idea.
Yeah, but you don't carry that on a trip with you, at least unless you put that in your old
you can use stove fuel. I mean, there are things you can use, but at the same time, I don't know if I would make them as a recommendation for every application, right? Like I don't know, I'd be dumping naphtha on my $400 tarp.
Right.
It's just, I mean, that's like it's hardcore stuff. So, there's certain things you got to be really careful about what you're using to clean certain things for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Cause I never thought about the silicone thing, and you're telling me, no, probably not the best thing, but you know what? It's live and learn or get advice like we're getting tonight. Right. So that's always a good thing. Okay. So we talked about tents, hammocks. Well, what do we put inside of our tents, but our sleeping systems? When you get into your thermarests or your self-inflating mattresses, and then of course your sleeping bags, there's sleeping systems, you get your downfilled, you get your synthetics. What's the best way to care and prepare these things? You're not just going to throw them for the most part into the laundry. What's the best way to keep your sleeping bag clean?
There are some, I think it's Nickwax makes some specific soaps that you can use for those. The thing is, with that, the way I look at it is it ends up being, particularly with a good down bag or a good down quilt, it ends up being the better part of a day when you're going through, because you're not supposed to wring them out. You're supposed to just kind of squeeze it out, right? And you put tennis balls with it in the dryer, but on air only. And, the process actually takes a lot longer than what the manufacturers will tell you. So my thought on that is always to get a liner. So I've got I think it's a silk Sea to Summit liner. and I will use that. If it's really warm, I'll use that as my bag. If it gets, temperature drops, then I'll pull the quilt over that. But that way I can keep kind of some of the oils of the skin and everything off of the bag. So I try to prevent as much as possible. And then when I have to, then I'll use the Nick Wax. Nick Wax also makes some stuff for like water repellent gear, and like rain jackets and things like that. And they have special soaps for those. So that's what I do with them. But I just try to prevent as much. It's impossible sometimes, right? You're dirty, filthy. You come in, you get the tent set up. It's impossible not to bring it in with you. But I really try hard with good bags to avoid that.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do is be washing it and then taking away any of the qualities that it has for heat retention and stuff like that. But sometimes you just have to, if you're out there on a canoe trip or a backpacking trip and it's hot weather and, you've been sweating and the evening gets cool and before you know it, all that body odor gets in there, there's got to be a way to keep it clean and fresh, aside from carrying a bottle of Febreze with you, right?
Yeah. Well, oftentimes, like cleaning a down bag will help bring that heat retention back to it because you kind of reloft it, you break down, get all the dirt and oils out of the down, and it essentially becomes like a new bag. But the biggest thing, like John said, is trying to keep it clean. So generally, I don't do a lot of tripping in the summertime because we're pretty busy, but is generally I'll wear a layer. I'll wear long johns. He uses a liner. Same idea, is keeping your skin off of the bag to keep those oils and stuff from your skin getting into the bag, and that's essentially what causes it to start losing its heat value and getting all clumpy. So nobody wants a clumpy bag.
The one thing I have a problem with using a liner is I've tried them before is that you get that entanglement. You get in there and you get twisted a bit and it starts twisting around your legs and you can't get it all shifted and stuff. I guess it's something you just got to get used to the sleeping system, right? Yeah. What about when it comes to your air mattresses, whether it's a Thermarest or closed foam cell pad or something along that lines? It's always good, I guess, to carry a repair kit in case you do get a puncture or, you're blowing too much air into it, which you're not supposed to, but some people do. And before you know it, you pop a seam or something. What's the best way to accommodate that?
I did that.
Again, pre-testing before you go.
Yeah, I put them all out on my front drive today, and I soaked it with a hose and then put just soap on them all and look for bubbles. And one that I thought was fine because I used it last and there was no holes, but there was a hole in it. So I used a repair kit, but if you run out of that stuff, duct tape is good. But I didn't know this until a couple months ago. Red duct tape is better in cold temperatures than any other duct tape.
Red duct tape?
I don't know why. I think it was Lure of the North that told me that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Huh. There you go, people.
I'm going to go around and get my double-headed sleeping bag because someone's asking. I'll be back.
And another big thing too with these clothes or these self-inflating mattresses is when you're storing them, store them open. Don't roll them up and tuck them away. Let them breathe. They open up the valve and let it fully loft. That way they're, especially in colder temperatures, because when that stuff is cold, it doesn't want to expand as much. But if it has that memory of being fully expanded, it's going to expand much quicker.
Yeah,
so
I think the same for
I know they take up a shit ton of room in your basement or something, but find some place to hang it or lay it out flat, but in an open state.
If you can lay it on if you can lay it on its side, sort of, and like the back of a closet or something, if it's long enough to do that, I always try to make sure we're doing that with them, because I've got 2 Thermarests that are over 30 years old now, and I've got 2 others that are over 35. So something's working.
Yeah.
So there's Kevin's Kevin Callan and Gary the Puppet sleeping bag. Go ahead, Kevin. Here, I'm going to put you full screen. Tell us all about it.
Okay, I forget who makes this. I think it's Xped. I actually got this I do a lot of morning shows, and I bought this just to have it on a morning show. I thought it'd be hilarious to have the host in this, and then me in this. But then I forgot about the green screen, and this is green, so it didn't work. So I brought it on a trip with Christine, and she just said, "Yeah, that's never going to happen." So it's been in the storage ever since, but I got a good giggle out of it. Woo.
Christine is actually saying that air mattresses store really good underneath your bed. And just letting her know, not under my bed. I got too many backpacks and other things underneath my bed. Sorry, let's get ourselves back. What button do I hit? There we go. Okay, sorry. So I seen you in one of your videos with that, Kevin. You actually used it, and you actually were sharing the Gary the Puppet side, right?
Yes, it is warm because you're sleeping together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The only sleeping bag that I thought never really worked. It was a good idea. It was by who was it? I think it was Thermarest. They created a sleeping bag that attaches onto the air mat. So you don't have a sleeping bag underneath you. You have the air mat underneath you. And supposedly that kept you warmer. It never did. I froze.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Zach, you could answer this one here. What should people be looking for when they're buying an air mattress? I know there's all shapes, sizes.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, let me ask it this way: what's your most popular seller right now for?
Well, honestly, it's like sleeping equipment's very new for our shop. We've never sold a lot of camping gear, and we've just kind of gotten into it. So we're selling Thermarest and Nemo equipment right now. Both. Oh, there you go. Yeah, both. I think Nemo is doing a killer job of building some absolutely wild engineered stuff. Like they're thinking outside the box, and I think they're really kind of pushing the envelope as to what designs can do and how things can be done. And the way that they're utilizing these new pump sacks in order to fill the bags is absolutely brilliant. And it works so well. So that would be a big one for me. Not having to blow up a sleeping pad is huge. Another big one is how thick you can get it and how firm it will stay, and how that loft is going to kind of cradle you would be a big one to look for. So getting one that's going to be fairly firm and going to kind of stay in place and not kind of blow all its air out to the sides is what I would be looking for sure.
Yeah,
and I get one that's insulated, even if you're even thinking of spring camping, I would get an insulated Thermarest, because the amount of heat that they block and retain into your body is huge. You're going to pay a little bit more, but I think that extra bump up in price is money well spent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just out this last week, and I was out for 3.5 days. I wrote this down here. It was crazy. 3.5 days camping here, right? It went from 12 Fahrenheit to 79 degrees Fahrenheit in 3.5 days, or -11 to 26 Celsius in 3.5 days. It's that shoulder season, and so those insulated pads are great.
Oh yeah.
I bring one of these with me as well in the springtime. It's one of those reflector blankets that the marathon runners will wear, but it's a little bit more. It's waterproof and stuff like that. So I put that in my pack. You can get that at any store. And I wouldn't bring that in the summer, but any shoulder season, that adds 10 degrees more. So it's worth it.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, I think we pretty much covered that topic. Let's get into, it's 8 o'clock. Let's do our swag giveaway now. And then we'll continue on with the second half of the list here. Kevin, John, I'm just going to drop you back into the basement for a moment here, and I'm going to keep Zach on screen with me because he is adding to tonight's giveaway. So I'll have you guys both back up in a second. Yeah, you get yourself another beer. And I'm going to be cracking mine soon too, so that's cool. Just finished my coffee. Okay, so tonight for our swag giveaway, going to be giving away a Canoe Hound Adventures prize pack, and Zach said that he would be more than happy to add to that. So what have you got, Zach?
Okay, all right. Let me get my little pile of stuff here if I can find it all on my desk. All right, we got a nice little ball cap here. I don't know if the light seems really weird in here. I'm having a hard time. Cool.
FRONTENAC
We've got a beanie, FRONTENAC outfitter beanie. I know winter's almost over, but you can never have too many beanies.
Hey, I bring one of them with me when I summer camp. It's a great way to keep yourself warm. Yeah.
Couple of insulated tumblers. That's all the self-promo gear, but now we've got a couple of really cool things. A little knife and axe care kit here. So we got knife and axe sheath cream for leather sheaths. We've got a sharpening stone for a knife, and we've got the blade oil to keep everything from rusting up.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is very generous of you. Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
All righty. Well, we talked in the green room about what we were actually going to have as a question for tonight's giveaway. First thing before I ask the question, you can see going across the bottom, I need you to email your answers over to coasprize@gmail.com by Saturday at 11. At that time, I will do a drawing and I will let the winner know. And then I will contact you, get your mailing address, and I will then supply that also to Zach so that he can send out your portion of the prize as well. And tonight's question is, and we covered this very early on in the show, how often should you oil your paddle? In Kevin's case, how often should you oil your paddle shaft? Okay, so drop me an answer. If you do get it wrong, I will send you back an email with a little tidbit of information or maybe a little bit of a snippet of the video that you can actually resend and get your answer in, because I want everybody to have a chance at winning these prizes. So how often should you oil your paddle? And with that being said, I'm going to bring back our guests. And you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I think I'm going to introduce one of our guests once again, like I did at the beginning of the show, for those of you that may have missed it. So this is one of our panelists.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cowan, the Happy Camper.
Woo! Yes, I'm apostle number 14. Well, if you visited me instead, you would have been fine.
Yeah, I'm one sexy beast, I'm telling you. I called you poopy pants. Sorry about that.
Did you really?
I will hold in my urine for you, Dennis.
You have to remind Kevin that this is a family show.
What about the chipmunks?
Awesome.
Hey, welcome back, Kevin. Hey, there's the toothbrush. I actually love that intro. That's I was doing my intro for my channel, and I had to put something together for my frequent flyer.
Isn't it fun to go through old videos? Like the other night, Kevin, I was watching.
It took me 10 minutes to find all that.
Really?
And I see John. I'm just waiting for John to pop back in before I pop him back on screen. He must be going to get a beer or something along that lines. But yeah, very easy to find good content with you, Kevin, for sure. Very entertaining all the time.
Thanks. I'll put that on my gravestone.
That's all good. Christine, I hope you like that.
Is she here tonight?
Gotta get. Yeah, she's in the chat.
Is she? Oh,
she's in the chat. Yeah. There we go. So we have our panelists here. I'm going to get our panelists right back to the way we were before so that people don't get confused. Okay, so now we're going to get back on with this. I'm also going to drop the link to the chat tonight in the chat. If anybody would like to join us, let me find it here. There's the invite. And if anybody would like to join us on panel, if you have a suggestion or something you'd like to add, please do. Please do. And here is the link. I'm not going to keep posting it tonight. If you want on, join us. Okay, so now let's get on to camp stoves and water filtration systems. We'll start with camp stoves. There's a million different brands of camp stoves out there. Everything from the twig burning kind up to your fuel, right up to the old Coleman, big old Coleman camping stoves. What should we be looking for in the spring? What do we need to do to get these things in fine tune for the upcoming spring season?
Well, here's one thing I did today that I didn't know anything about until I read about it. I got my stick stoves, which are a mess. I don't take care of my stuff very well. I put them in the oven and I set it on clean. And so instead of cleaning, well, I cleaned my oven too. Hope to God.
Yeah.
But your self-cleaning system. Yeah. I put my stick stove in there and it got rid of all the gunk and gunk all around it.
Yeah. Wow. But if you're using a gas stove, like make sure you don't put the fuel cylinder in there, right?
Yeah. Well, my jet boil. So I don't. You guys will be better to talk about stoves, but I did this today that everybody's doing this time of year. You have these left over, and you're like, how much do I have left? And I have a jet boil attachment that tells you how much is left. I couldn't find it, so I did the old-fashioned thing. I got water and put it in the water, but when you put it in, you have to put it in like this to burp it, so there's no air pocket underneath. You burp it, and how much it floats is how much is left in there. So if it's sinking, there's a lot of fuel left. If it's floating, there's not much left.
Okay, yeah, because it'll only sink down to about the level of the fuel, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? That's one thing I don't like about those is you it's always a guessing game, right? Or you're going to take full,
always a little bit left,
but then again,
right? Like, oh man, do I take a new can or do I risk trying to run the weekend with this little bit left?
Yeah, that's why if I'm using a gas stove, I would prefer something like an MSR where you can actually top up your bottles.
Yeah.
Or what's the other brand that has the same type of system?
Whisper Light.
Well, that would be the MSR stoves, but there's another brand too. It's just eluding me right now.
Coleman Pete?
No, it's another one. They take the same tall bottles as like the MSR bottles. Anyways, but I'm sure those of you that have them would know. But those ones there are so much I find environmentally friendly. You could fill those things back up again. But of late, I've been using twig stoves a lot more because there's fuel all around you when you're out there, right? And that's always a good thing too. But when it comes to a gas stove like an MSR, Zach, do you sell the kits, repair kits?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we got there's a couple. There's one that you can take with you. It's got kind of a jet cleaning tool, a little wrench and stuff if you need to do a field service. And then there's an annual maintenance kit as well, where you can basically kind of tear the whole stove down, replace the jets, give it a proper cleaning, make sure all the pump parts are lubricated. It's a good investment, but at the same time, I mean, man, those stoves are they're bulletproof. I had a Whisper Light for probably 25 years. It was my original stove and I still use it.
Yeah.
It still works fine. You just give it a little shake, get the jets cleaned out, and it still fires up every time.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm like Kevin. I'm not really good at maintaining my gear and keeping it all pristine and super shiny. But I mean, that kind of just it creates, speaks to the quality of those stoves. So I've recently upgraded to a couple different ones. I've got a Dragonfly.
And I've got a stove on the planet. Yep.
It's a fabulous stove for gourmet cooking, though. I mean, you can control the temperature on that thing just so well. And then I've recently got the what is it? It's MSR's jet boil essentially. I can't remember the name of it right now. It doesn't matter. Just because it boils water instantly. So
yeah,
I like coffee in the morning, and I bring that thing so I can make coffee very fast.
I agree with you there. Absolutely.
Yeah, the one thing about the MSRs, I find their stoves are very reliable. The one thing you do want to do is as Zach mentioned, you want to make sure you maintain it, right? It's always good to check your seals, change your seals before you go out. Always better to do it at the end of the season too, to make sure, especially because you'll remember if you had an issue with it on your trip. But they are so field maintainable, those things, that it's ridiculous. You could take them completely apart with their little kit that they give, or not that they give you, that you have to buy. But get yourself familiar with it. Pulling that there's a wire that goes through the whole tube, which is a good way to clean. If you start having clogging issues, you just run that back and forth a few times. That's going to usually clear up your situation. If it still hasn't, turn it upside down, shake that jet with a little pin in there. It's going to clean the jets out. Yeah. But they're just such reliable stoves, and they're so field maintainable that it's ridiculous how easily maintainable and repairable they are on the trail.
Yeah. I think that goes for most of those brands of stove, whether it's MSR or what. I mean, MSR's got a pretty good brand recognition, but I mean, any of those, any fuel burning stove, most of them are, you've got air and you've got gas, and that's about all you need to get that fire going. So if something isn't working, you're probably not getting fuel. So pull the fuel valve out and have a look, make sure that that thing's going. So.
Yeah. Nathan Skoka here.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, those are what you would want to inspect, and make sure that you're not leaking fuel anywhere or losing air. So.
And
Yeah,
and
that there. Well, if you buy the little maintenance kit that comes with it, they put the extra little cup in there, so your pump works proper. The pump oil, you got your sometimes an extra little shaker jet in case you lose yours when you're doing field maintenance. But the O-ring definitely. The one thing that I've also taken to start to carry for my MSR stove is I have an extra pump for it. I have an old pump on it, and I'm sure it's going to go one day. So I bought myself a new one just on the in case that if it does go, I have my replacement, because the old ones have plastic tabs on them and stuff that are starting to fatigue. So
right, I did that, but by mistake, because I have a 30-plus-year-old MSR Whisper Light International. I burned every kind of fuel you can through it. It works great, and then I lost it. Like when I moved, I couldn't find it, and I was going to go on a trip. I'm like, and I waited until I was on the road going to the put-in and stopped off at an REI down here to buy another, Whisper Light International. And of course, then I found the original one right when I got back. So now, so I have that double pump now, but that thing's over 30 years old. It's bulletproof.
Yeah. And Kevin, what do you got there? You got a Trangia system you want to show us?
I'm really excited, like a kid in a school, in a toy store,
candy store,
candy shop. Yeah, I collect stoves. Like some people collect whiskey. Well, I collect whiskey. Some people collect old books on camping. I do that as well. But I do collect stoves. And I got so many stick stoves. So when I take my jet boil, this is a little small jet boil, I pack 2. So I always have one in my ditch pit. I've never had to use the other one, but because these usually don't break, right? But if it breaks, then you got another one. They're so small. Look at that. It's nothing.
What brand is that one?
That's the jet boil, the one that actually simmers too. It's got a simmer.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not one of those. It's like you can actually simmer it. And so I put 2 in. But my white gas stove, my Whisper Light, today I did the whole shake thing. I don't know if you explained that, but you guys know you put it upside down. You turn it on.
The shaker jet.
Go down, shake it, and it's a shaker. It's like putting salt on your chips, and then that usually cleans everything. But if it doesn't, something else is wrong. So you turn it on again, and then turn it off. Let it cool down, and then you put the pipe through it like a pipe cleaner, like you're smoking your pipe. I use white gas and flush it white gas through it. That usually cleans it out. Also, I put Vaseline on the pump valve. I always bring an extra in my kit just in case on trip. But today I put Vaseline around the valve because it's been sitting for a while. But you know what? I gotta say, like Trangia alcohol stoves, they can't break. It's a fondue set, for the love of God. Nothing can break. Yeah, don't do that with alcohol. But if you are going to use one of these, though, I'll bring a stick stove in the spring. And I'll use the stick stove the majority of the time, but it was really, really bad weather and the wood is really wet for 5 days. I'll put this in the stick stove instead of using the whole Trangia set, right? And so if you are going to use an alcohol-based stove, make sure you bring one of these containers because it's really safe. You pour in and then it stops. But if you just use a cup, and the one problem about alcohol is that you can't see it burning.
Burns clean.
Right? So sometimes we'll bring fondue fuel or actually brake line antifreezer or no brake line. Yeah,
brake line antifreeze. Yep.
So you'll actually see the blue flame. But if not, if you don't use one of these, the flame can go into the container and boom, just blow you right up. Right. So, good stove.
Yep.
This is speaking of alcohol stoves. Brand new, just picked it up. Ever new titanium, for the ultralight trips, and looking forward to just trying this out. And but it's scary how light these are.
Seriously, are you guys just bleeding money? Money comes out of your pores.
The price of the titanium stuff has come down so much in recent years that I'd never be able to touch this stuff before, but prices are dropping on it, which makes me happy.
So it's only $1,000 for what you just showed then.
That's right. Just 1,000 or 2. I don't remember. I got so much, Kevin. I just throw it around. How
did you clean your pots today? how do you clean your pots for the spring? Your cooking pots?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't. I've cleaned them out at the last trip, and so I won't really do anything. Although I'm going to try a Dutch oven test tomorrow morning. But that one, it's a 1950s Dutch oven that I'm going to have to take a little bit of a look at that one to make sure it's good and clean.
Yeah, you can oil it too. I use vinegar and boil vinegar and water in my pots every spring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use the scrub pad because I don't want to mess up with the inside of it. So I did all that, but I kept the black on the outside. So people would debate about this, whether you should keep them all clean or the black on it. The black, first of all, I think it's cool. Your pots are being used, but it also actually conducts heat better if they're actually black and sooty than they were just plain clean.
Matt Bunch, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
What?
Sorry, I had to add that. He's just asking about first aid kits. We're going to be talking about that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, but you know what? Same note there, Kevin, about pots. I think black pots are a better pot. The more they get used, just like some of your best kitchenware, the more it gets used, the better it becomes, right? I also have an MSR set that's a stainless steel set, and my wife insists on keeping that clean for whatever reason, right? Like the SOS pad and the whole 9 yards. And it's like, okay, go ahead, because I always use my titanium pot set in the bush anyways when I can. And that their set is black. Of course, you're going to clean it off. You're going to clean off the black soot, but it almost builds like a carbon coating on the outside. You know, the longer you use it, unless you totally burn it. But you get like a carbon coating on it, which I find makes it easier to clean when it turns black. So, just my thing, right?
Also, for your cups, if you use one of these, I've turned to Kopuka now instead, whatever. But I used to use these lip guard.
So you don't burn your lips off your face. Yeah. These tin cups get really hot. Yeah. You got to get me one of those things, Kevin. Put it in my Christmas stocking.
Okay. You're always asking.
I know. Okay, so on the other flip side, we got heat, but now we're talking about water, right? There's all kinds of new water filtration systems out there. One that comes to mind, because I have one, is one of those Catadine systems. It's a little bag with the filter on the end. Then you got your old pump style with a cartridge in it. Some have a material type of membrane on the inside. Some have ceramic. Zach, what can you tell us about these systems?
So I recently started using one of the MSR gravity flows, and I'm a big fan. So you just go and you scoop a bag of water, hang it on a tree, hook up your hose, and it just filters the water through, no pumping required. Before that, I used the MSR the Mini Works, which is that, you fasten your Nalgene to it and just pump away. That is an awesome filter. It's not super expensive. It's pretty fail safe. It's easy to field maintain, and that's been a popular one. There are a lot of popular ones these days where, I don't know. There's so many brands now that you just literally scoop it into a water bottle and you can squeeze it, and it's got a little filter cartridge right in the mouthpiece. You know, and those seem to be really popular. It's I think the biggest thing for pre-season use is making sure it's clean, and if it didn't get put away dry, that there's no smell of musty mildew buildup in there. If there is, then you're going to want to flush it with bleach. Make sure it's clean. There's no gunk buildup inside of the hoses or in the filter element, those types of things. So
that was the biggest thing I was going to hopefully have somebody allude to, is making sure that when you store these things, that you store them dry. You let them dry well. There's the Catadine system there, right? Yeah. And that's the one that has a little sack. Okay, that's the 2-liter bag, right, or 3-liter?
Yeah, perfect.
For for on the go, I find that those ones they're the cat's ass, right? You can be paddling, you fill it up, and you don't have to sit there and pump or whatever, or carry water across a portage. No more of that. You drink what you want at the beginning of the portage, empty it out, do your portage, get to the other end, scoop up some water, and you're good to go again. That's one thing I like about them Catadine systems. Yeah,
I got to throw in here. I love the Catadine. I've been using it for a couple of years, but I found the last year and a bit, their filters aren't lasting as long as they should be lasting. I don't know what's going on. I've written to the company. They've sent me new filters back saying there's no issue. And like 2 weeks later, and you can't back flush them. Whereas the one, like the platypus ones and the MSR ones, I think, but platypus ones you can back filter. So I'm going back to them, I think.
Yeah. Can I give you, well, you know what, the whole idea of tonight's show is tips and tricks, right? Before I go on a trip, Kevin, I pre-soak mine, right? Because inside that catadine is all these they're like little strings, like mop strings, right? And they dry out. So what you need to do, just like a sponge, you need to rehydrate them, which will get the flow going again.
Oh.
So give that a try before you go on a trip. Soak it, just put it in a glass of cold water or whatever, warm water, and let it soak for the day, and then try it, and it'll get a much better flow. So, because I've heard that problem many times, and I found mine did too, would sort of slow down or something at the first of the season, and I started pre-soaking and no problem. But you also have to flush them often. When you get down to that much water in your bag, give it that slosh, right, to clean the filters, empty out, refill up again. So,
right,
yeah. What about the Sawyer system?
You know what? The Sawyer Mini. This is a $20 filter. I got this for ultralight backpacking. I love this thing. We actually use this up on the White River, which feeds into the Yukon. It's the most silt of any river I've ever been on, and we were using the the pickling stuff that we drop in the water to get that to drop out, and then we would filter that as well. But we used a Sawyer for a while on that, and it didn't clog up the Sawyer, and I'm amazed by that. The great thing about these is as you're getting ready, at the end of every trip, what you do is you just back flush these, right? You've got go ahead, fill that with water, and then you go ahead. I'm doing this backwards. And then you go ahead and back flush that. And I've never had a problem with them. They've been absolutely bulletproof. I get one smart water bottle, like a 1 liter, that I'll dip down into the water to fill up, and then go ahead, hook it to this. And then what I do is I use little disposable water bottles, the 500 mil that you get, and the supposed one use. And what I'll do is I'll get those, or they give them to you at events a lot of times. And so I just grab those, and then I use those, and I'll fill those up with this. I've yet to have one break, and I've yet to have this fail me. For $20, I can't even tell you how much I love this thing. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Is that part of a gravity feed system too, that one?
This one is not. No. And so
that's the one you put on the bottle and you squeeze.
Right. Put it on the bottle. You can drink straight from it, right? And they even give you a little rubber straw with it. But what I do is I put that on there, and I just put some pressure on that, that smart water bottle, the 1 liter bottle. And it's, it comes with a little bag that you can dip into the water. And the problem with the little bag is when you go to put it in the water, it always wants to flip up and float.
Yeah.
So, so you're down at water's edge, working a little harder than what you need to. So I put that smart water bottle in it. It weighs, the weight is just nothing. So yeah, I love these things so far.
Yeah. Christy Allison, thanks very much for keeping us safe wearing your mask there. That's awesome. Christy wants to know how do you know when to replace your gravity filter? They have a platypus. Anybody got any takes on that? I can't allude to that because I don't have one.
I don't know exactly. I'm sure there is a number probably on the manufacturer's website that is going to tell you it's good for so many liters or gallons of filtration. So that is really going to depend how much you're using it. If you're using it a lot, I would say probably replace it, every year or maybe more. If you're only doing a couple to a handful of trips a year where you're only, filtering, less than 100 gallons, you're probably good for a couple years. Again, just making sure it stays clean and make sure you're drying it properly and following, kind of the manufacturer's specifications on how they want you to handle it. So There you go. The lawyers can't come after me.
I've also got I've got several different water filtration systems. You can. I've never used the tablets, but you could use tablets and stuff like that. But what is it? The MSR has a pump system that has a ceramic filter that's inside, And not a lot of people know with these particular ones, but on the end cap that you would screw onto your Nalgene bottle, on that end cap is this little gauge on there that you can pull off. It's a plastic gauge, and that plastic gauge is to determine if your filter is ready for replacement, because you can clean those cartridges, right, with a little like, what do they call it?
Give you a little scrub pad with it, yeah.
Yeah, and eventually that wears down the ceramic element that's inside. And if you could take that little gauge, and I should have brought my filter up. I could run down and get it if anybody wants to see. But if that'll fit over the ceramic, it's time to buy a new ceramic replacement. So that's what that little thing is for. People often wonder, like, what's this for? Like, what do I use that for? And that's exactly what it's for. If you read the instructions, it's to gauge whether you need to replace your filter. But as Zach had mentioned earlier, with any of these systems, especially the pump ones, you want to make sure that you're storing these things dry. And it's really hard to dry or properly dry a ceramic filter system because they're hard and they encompass the water inside inside the ceramic, the whole element there. So when you get home after your season, I always maintain it by I'll pump through, like I'll do a small thing of water with a cap full of bleach in it, and I'll pump that whole system, and then I'll rinse it out with about 3 or 4 times that amount to make sure that we're killing any bacteria. And then it sits on the dish dryer rack for like a week or more, right? And then I store it open. So you don't want that mildew or whatever getting inside.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? We got any more questions here about that? Let's see here.
There's some great comments, by the way. Some very funny stuff over there that, as we're talking, that's coming up. Some good stuff. There's actually a thread going on in there about filtering your vodka as well.
Yeah.
Filtering your vodka.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So, cleans out your...
There you go.
And then follow that down. It's pretty entertaining. So
yeah, Brian, no, you don't need to soak it in vodka. The vodka is clean. You just drink it.
It was disinfected properly. I seen somebody asking about the cat's ass. Is that good? And yes. I use that term all the time. It's the cat's ass. That's a good term. Yeah.
No.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get on to electronics and navigation. Here's one that a lot of people overlook. And one thing about electronics is you have these things in them called batteries, right? And a lot of times these things get stored with batteries over the season. And what happens to a stored battery over season? It could start leaking and corroding, right?
Right.
And you've then ruined your couple $100 spot device or InReach or GPS unit. What are some things that we can do in the preseason to make sure that these things are running top notch for us? Who wants to take that one?
I got it.
Okay, Kevin's got it. He's digging.
Oh, there we go. All right, I did that today. So I changed all my batteries on my sat phone, my Spot Gen 3, Spot X, my new GPS that I'm still learning about it. Changed all the batteries, put extra batteries in my ditch kit now so I don't forget before. And I also went to the Spot website to make sure they're still working. So I went outside and pushed I'm okay, and then
okay, yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, test it, eh? Test your system.
Yeah. So I upgraded that. In fact, there was upgrades. I had to plug this thing in and upgraded it, which I'm really glad I did because I would never thought of that the night before the trip. So lithium batteries, and I'm good to go.
Kevin's barrel looks bottomless.
I got something
Kind of like his whiskey glass.
I changed the fishing line today too.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's important to do.
There's something I never even considered discussing tonight: is maintaining your fishing tackle, right?
Yeah, you don't want to snap a line because of your line's rotted.
Yeah.
You know why? Because Pine Martin's listening, and it's hopeless.
Do I need to bring Martin up so he could defend himself?
He could.
No. So anyways, when it comes to batteries for your devices, Kevin, are you using just regular use it, kill it, throw it away batteries, or are you using rechargeable?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know, I used to do the whole rechargeable thing, and I can't find my recharger today. I live in a small house. I don't know how I lose these things. So I put lithium non-rechargeable batteries in. Yeah, I generally have a recharging station here because that is more environmental.
I'm just going to show you. This is my disaster of a recharging station right here. There's all my electronics and stuff on there. So I got all my batteries. I got everything that has to do with my outdoor adventures on, like electronically on that counter. And I always keep all my batteries and everything in top-notch shape, right? Because they will die on the counter, sitting on the counter over time.
Yeah.
So you'll want to make sure you keep them topped up. But I tend to use rechargeables just because, one, it's environmentally more environmentally sound, right? It doesn't cost me as much in the long run by buying batteries, using them. And I never, ever, ever want to take batteries out that are half used, right? Because, you know, you're only asking for trouble, or you have to carry extras, right? Extras.
Yeah.
And they get to weigh quite a bit. I also have a solar charging system. I also test that out yearly beforehand. And I'll usually kill off some of my batteries by putting them in a flashlight, draining them. And then I'll recharge them, and I'll see how they recharge with my solar charger. So there's another way to test it to make sure your solar charger is still working or producing energy.
Oh my God, Dennis, stop talking about equipment that's not important. Pine Martin has answered. I am, as you speak, braiding my trilene fishing. There we go.
He comes up with some of the biggest words sometimes. That's cool. Okay, so is there much more to go into with the electronics and navigation? Any other things that you should be looking for when it comes to John?
Two things.
Oh, wait a minute, John. Christine just answered Pine Martin. For your information, I've never seen Kevin catch a fish.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Oh, wait a minute, John.
It's going to be an interesting conversation offline later, I'm thinking. But I was going to say two things about batteries and navigation. The first is I'll use the Energizer, the lithium, those blue lithium single use for something that's critical. What I've noticed with, and because same thing, it's like I want to be more environmentally sensitive, so using the rechargeables, right? But I even noticed when I was out this past weekend that the rechargeables in even a simple little battery operated, like a little black diamond lamp, little lantern, they were burning out really fast.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that seems to be the trade-off there, right? They're more environmentally responsible, but they burn out faster. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a drag. The other thing I was going to say is like with a Garmin InReach, and I don't know if this is with other units, but when you go out to, for example, let's say you go out to your put-in, let's be optimistic and say you can drive 4 or 5 hours. We're not going to pretend there's any shutdowns anywhere or anything. Let's say you can drive 4 or 5 hours to go paddling, right? When you get there, turn on that unit, like your Garmin InReach, and let it acquire the satellites up there. Mm-hmm. Because it's basically kind of, if you will, has a memory of your home, if you will, or wherever you used it last, right? So it will take extra time. So if you get up there and you're in an emergency and you need to get a hold of someone right away, it's going to take extra time to locate those satellites and get you positioned. So the best thing to do is when you get to the place you're about to put in, just hit that thing, let it acquire the satellites from there, and then you're good to go. It will save you a little bit more time.
Yeah, I never thought of that there. That's actually a good idea, and it really does make sense too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
You know what? And that's coming after a 9% alcohol by volume beer. So,
there you go. Wow.
I'm proud of myself.
They sell them big in Wisconsin. Alrighty. Well, somebody had asked or alluded earlier to first aid kits. There's a lot of maintenance that can be done to a first aid kit, and things to make sure that you've got in your first aid kit, because usually you have the season that you've just come off of and you've used Band-Aids, you've used burn cream, different things like that. What do we need to make sure that we have a good, well-stocked first aid kit? Kevin, you got the first aid kits in your hand. Let's have it.
Oh, John's better at this than I am. I'll just tell you that I'll buy one of these, and then I'll add other things that I think I need, like medicines that I take regular basis. I already made a doctor's appointment for my first trip, and then he'll re-pill me, back pills, vertigo pills. He always gets me a free EpiPen because he knows I have no money, so he'll have a free one for me. So that's pretty good. I also make one up for the dog, so the dog has his own first aid kit, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. So, but Joe,
I will just for curiosity's sake. I mentioned earlier I have a resources page on my my new website. I will be putting a link on the resources page within the week to a dog first aid kit that Kevin had provided for me before. Great resource if you're taking a pooch on a trip with you.
Yeah,
why
great
would you
idea.
take poo on a trip, Dennis?
Pooch.
Oh, sorry.
Pooch. Yep. So along the lines with the first aid kit, you want to go through and check on some of the liquidy or creamy stuff in there, like ointments and things like that. A lot of them have expiry dates. You want to make sure that the polysporins and things like that have that they're current. You don't want to be taking something out there. Although you say, oh, you know what, it's only 4 months overdue. You know what, for the cost of it, replace it. You know what I mean?
Especially if you're backcountry camping, right? Where things are a little bit more critical. The other thing too is when you're looking at medications like ibuprofen and Tylenol, and those will have the expiration dates on them, but they'll also, if you have them out and let's say you're paddling in hot weather, that's terrible on them. That's really hard on the medication. So if it says, oh, you've got 2 years, 3 years on this, whatever it might be, if you're out on let's say you're on a 2-week paddle and where it's hot, just replace them. It's worth it. That's one of the main things you want to do. I put together, Kevin's was holding up those, were those Adventure Medical? Yeah. So those are really good kits. And the nice thing about a kit like that is it has a really good spread of materials. They'll market these as saying, okay, well, you get, X amount of pieces for $10, or you get 4 times as many for $20 to try to get you to buy that bigger kit or something, right? What you really want to look for in a good kit is one that has a spread of different types of things in there, right? So Adventure Medicals is they do a good job with that. They have a good spread in those. And you can get those all over North America, right on our side of the border as well as yours. So I would say that's a good company to start with, for example. And then what I would do is I would put together extra things that you might need. And so extra, I always throw in a couple extra sheets of like moleskin, right? I'll go ahead and I will throw in a lot more ibuprofen and a lot more Tylenol. I'll put them into little Ziploc bags, mark what they are, the dosage on there, or strength of it, if you will, and then the expiration on those. There is, and I'm gonna just show this very quickly. This is a piece that came out of, let's see here.
I'm gonna get your full screen here.
Okay. Managing your pain after surgery without opioids. So this is from University of Michigan. I know that Johns Hopkins has put out something on this too, but there are, it's a lot safer to alternate ibuprofen and Tylenol, and they give you the specific, don't take my word for it, I'm not a doctor. They give you the specific dosages and times. And so what you can do is you can kind of combine those, but it's like on a cycle like this, and they're just on different, I guess on a different rotation, if you will, just slightly by time. And the end result is that studies have shown that it is as strong a pain reliever to do it that way as an opioid. So if you're out in the backcountry, right, and you fall, let's say you fall and knock out a couple of teeth, there's nothing you can do about that. It's going to hurt like hell no matter what you do. But if you're on the water, for example, and you've got to stay still kind of aware of what you're doing, right? You got to pay attention to what you're doing to get out. This is a lot better too, because it doesn't mess you up the way that an opioid might. So I'll put that up on our blog site for the Outdoor Kind. That's something I think is really critical. That will really help you a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. Just as a tip, you know what? Your first aid kit is probably one of the most important pieces of gear that you're going to be carrying with you, and hopefully you never have to use it. I'm going to share with you a quick little video clip here from a past trip. Many of you have heard me tell this story about a couple of years ago. One fellow on the trip caught his eye on the corner of a branch, and it cut him open. You'll see the stitches and the scar that he's got here in the video. And this stresses the importance of having a properly stocked first aid kit. We happen to have 3 first aid kits on this, and I pretty much depleted mine of some of the essentials on him due to the cut. We use all the gauze to actually soak up the blood and everything, and to try and suppress the bleeding. And then, of course, we use like the iodine to sort of clean it out and get it nice and clean. And then, of course, we use the polysporin, and then we use the big bandage on it there so him and his son can get out. I'm just going to share this clip. It's not very gory or anything. No, you don't need. You'll be okay there. But this is my buddy Rick, and here he's explaining. Well, I'll let him explain it. Volume.
Solution that they gave us that the paramedic gave us for anybody's cuts.
Cool. That's awesome. It's like they would have thought of that, actually.
Yeah. So, like I say, you could see there the size of the scar that he actually had on his face there. He took I think 7 or 8 stitches. The doctor spread them out pretty far. I'm just trying to get rid of this here now. There we go. So it was a pretty nasty gash that he took, and it just so happened that we were close enough that he can get himself out into the town of Gogama. You hit a first aid station that they had there, and that the first aid EMS guy is the guy that gave him the extra saline to keep it clean. Mm-hmm. They went into Timmins, got stitched up, come back, and then we carried on with our trip. So we were fortunate. But I always stress the importance of having a first aid kit and staying up on it. You know what? Everybody should have their own. And you know what? You can always cross compare and say, okay, well, you know what? We don't need 3 tubes of polysporin. Let's bring this instead and this instead, right? So you can compare. So just a final tip there. Make sure your stuff's up to date and make sure it's well stocked. Kevin, can you hold up one of your first aid bags? Gloves. Very, very good one. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of space in there to stuff extra stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make the best out of the space in there.
Make sure you pack some Gold Bond for the giblets.
Oh, for chafing, yes. First aid kits now at FRONTENAC Outfitters.
Yeah, we've got some here. Nothing fancy, but just kind of like cover the basics off for sure. But you know, something I think super important that we didn't touch on is just first aid training. You know, that's awesome if you have a first aid kit. You have any idea what to do with it. You know, if something happens and you know obviously, like, you know, most people can figure out you got to stop the bleeding, but at least having some very basic first aid training is going to go a long way, more so than, you know, going and buying a first aid kit. You know, it's one of these things of buying gear, like, you know, as gearheads, like, you know, buying all this gear, but do you know how to use the gear you have? So that's what I'll like in that conversation.
And you know something, I had my first aid kit or course I had taken, geez, it's probably been well over 20 years. And it's amazing that, like, when this happened to my buddy, I was pretty much the one that stopped the bleeding, got him patched up and on his way. And I felt really good when he got back, and he said that the EMS guy said, who patched you up? And he says, oh, one of the guys on the trip. He says, well, tell him he did a great job.
Nice.
So, you know, obviously I did things right, and it was just based on what I remembered. I didn't have the little first aid kit, the little thing I was thumbing through the the little instruction book they give you. You know, it's knowledge. Get yourself some training. Sure. Even if it's just basic, like there's differences between first aid training too. You got backcountry first aid training courses, and then you have, like, you know, every day, you know, you cut yourself at home first aid courses. Doesn't matter which one you take, right? If you have a base knowledge of it, it's always a good thing.
And with a lot of, for example, if you take a wilderness first aid course, right? And then there's the more involved wilderness first responder kit. They all come with these little books of some kind, right?
Yeah.
And it's great because not only do you get the training there, but if you forget, right, you're not using this stuff. You go through the training and maybe a year or two down the road, you need something. A lot of times they'll give you these little books that will remind you of what you need to go through. So yeah, stock it with extras. One of the things that's really good to do is get some Benadryl for sure. That's something really good. Get things for your stomach. So whether it's Tums, Imodium, famotidine, those kinds of things can actually end a trip for somebody. And sometimes if you're on a group trip, ending that for somebody is going to end it for everybody, right? So those are good things to do. Take a bunch of we get these now during the pandemic, right? But take a bunch of these. These things can clump up over time in your first aid kit. So it's really good to check that they're okay. When I had cut my hand at a show, and Krista Martineau, Kevin, who had patched me up there, we went through all of our gauze, all of our gloves. We got down because I was bleeding so much. And so, it was just like that. So stuff it with more things than what you're going to use. Add some masks and some hand sanitizer because we live in the age of COVID. And I will show you, you can pick up things of gauze really cheaply online, which is great to have extra. But I will show you this too. You can get, instead of like PT tape or something, this is horse wrap. And this is awesome. You can get this really cheaply online. The difference between PT wrap and horse wrap is that it's a lot cheaper to get the horse wrap. It's the exact same product. And this will help you in case you need to sort of tighten something up. These things are great. So yeah, just a couple of things with that. But if you go to the Outdoor Kinds blog site, we have a handout on extra things to throw in your first aid kit. And we always like to promote that because it's huge, right? I mean, most people have to leave a trip because of stomach issues. You think of all these other things, it's stomach issues.
Yeah, a lot of times the change in water or improperly filtered water will cause these issues. And yeah, man, nothing worse than being on what could be a trip of a lifetime and being hung up in your tent for 3 days or outside your tent in a little cat hole trying to fill that with spackle, right? So
I have a in my first aid kit, especially when I take youth out, I have a syringe with a little bit of vegetable oil in a container, or sometimes soap, liquid soap, and I call it Bob. It's a terrible story, but it's something that we need to talk about. If you don't poop after 3 days, that's okay. But if you don't poop after day 5, it's rotting your inside. You can die of poisoning. So people that aren't used to the wilderness won't poop. They're afraid to poop, right? And I said, you got to poop. So I make it fun for them. I give them a prize if they poop. But I'll always say, if you don't poop, Bob's coming out of the first aid kit, and they will poop.
Yep. Here's Simo Forget is saying vacuum seal your first aid kit when you can. Yeah, it's one great way to keep it dry.
And I noticed too over there, Christy Kurtz is listing off some of the other things that she has in her first aid kit. And I haven't gone down through all of the things I have in mind, but she's added some really good things there too. So check out what Christy is saying over on the chat.
Yeah.
Sure.
Another good way to keep a first aid kit protected, other than vacuum sealing it, that seems great. But Nalgene bottles. We use those in whitewater kayaking a lot. It keeps them protected, keeps them dry. You can just stuff, a basic first aid kit into a 1 liter bottle pretty easily. So
or a good dry bag, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A good dry bag with that, because even though, like I'm showing you my ultralight kit here in the Ziploc, put it in a good dry bag and
for sure.
Yeah, by all means. All great tips. Ultimately, get yourself a first aid kit, keep it maintained. And I do like the one thing that Kevin mentioned earlier too, is an EpiPen. Very important to have in a first aid kit. I've got one in my first aid kit that I bring with me every year because it's the allergies or the anaphylactic allergies that you don't know about that could happen out there. If you've not been stung by a bee before and you happen to get stung by one and your head starts to blow up, have yourself something like that, or the Benadryl at least will help, but a EpiPen will work wonders. Yeah. Save a life. save a life. Alrighty, let's move on here. We're getting close to 9 o'clock. We still got a couple of categories to cover, and then I want to touch on a few things with John and Zach towards the end of the show here. Backpacks. We all deal with them, whether you're a hiker, a backpacker, or a canoeist, or like some sort of paddle sport guru. We all rely on a backpack. That's what everything goes into. What do we need to look for when it's the beginning of the season? What should we be looking for to make sure we have a good, reliable backpack? Zach?
Again, it's going to come down to mainly straps. I would say, making sure those connection points are solid. Checking the buckles. They have a tendency to, if you have plastic buckles on your backpack with UV exposure, the plastics break down and they have a tendency to break. And if you have any kind of waterproof backpack, check the liner on the inside of it. Make sure it's not starting to kind of break down and you get that white like plastic stuff kind of falling off the inside of your backpack. Mm-hmm. Those would be kind of the things I would be looking for right away. Yeah.
Zippers too. Kevin, Kevin likes to use his Vaseline on his zipper. Yeah. And you know what? That's another thing. A lot of backpacks have zippers, like side closure systems or something. Sure. It's very, very important to. And John, what are you showing there? Your carabiners?
Just a simple carabiners. I mean, there's so many things you can use with these, right? And particularly when you're out paddling. But I actually had a camera backpack that had a plastic buckle, and that broke. And so I was able to just use this to keep using it. But, it was carrying a couple of really big, DSLRs and some big lenses. So it was heavy, and the weight So I tell you what, there's so much you can do with these, right? And I always take extras out. I just loop these around my seat, like when I'm in the kayak, or I'll run for example, on any kind of a tie line I have in the canoe to like a bear barrel or something. And then I'll just throw a bunch of these on the tie line, and then I've got them there if I need it.
Yeah. Most backpacks have daisy chains on them anyways, right? So you can there's all kinds of loops there to hook them on. And you know what? My suggestion with carabiners too is you can always get the cheap ones that you get on the end of a keychain. Throw them away. You know what? For the $7 it costs to buy a pair of them off Amazon, that's like almost climber's grade, but they will handle a couple 100 pounds of pressure. Buy the good ones. You never know when you're going to need one for a real carabiner situation. Or if you're using a carabiner to hook up your food that you're going to be pulling up into a tree, and you got one of those the cheap carabiners, the thing's going to stretch and pop on you, right? It's inevitable. It's going to stop looping or catching proper. So get yourself some good carabiners. There again, it's an investment in good quality gear, right? Yeah. Kevin, what you got?
So I got this one pack that has leather straps and a leather tump. So I got this stuff. Actually, I got it from Tim's store, Canadian Outdoor Equipment. I'm not sure if he's the only one that sells it, but it's for my knife sheaths. I put this on my knife sheaths, makes them all nice. But I've also put it on here, and it really works well. So it's.
Yeah. Is that like probably like a beeswax mixture?
It is beeswax, yeah. Okay. It says it smells of cedar.
There you go.
Wow. It doesn't smell like anything.
You can get scented Vaseline, Kevin? Oh, no, sorry, never mind.
Strawberry scented. Yeah, I should try my beard cream. My beard cream is made with shea butter, and it's got a cedar scent to it. Maybe that'll make my sheath so.
There you go. See?
So, I got handle wax too for.
Okay, so Kevin, your pack there is that like a cotton canvas, because that brings to light something else with different types of packs.
Yeah,
some of them require waterproofing, or like wax canvas.
Yeah, it's not waterproof at all, so I put everything in a waterproof liner.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Frost River, and you're going to hate this, but I love it because it looks great in film.
Yeah.
Like it's just a nice pack, and it fits really well. But the main reason I bought this, and it was expensive, this is a kitchen pack. I don't use it for the kitchen, but it has a really good tump on it. So I love the tump, and I've had this for years. Like it's a canvas with a wax material on it, and it's built solid. You can't break it, and I look good when I'm portaging it.
Now, is that do you wax that? Do you put some sort of a wax to waterproof it?
I have yet.
I know you have a waterproof bag, but do you waterproof the outside?
No. I think. You know what? I think you're supposed to, but it's never been an issue. This bag is like rock solid. My old Duluth bags that I got at the yard sale for $1, I got 3 of those, and I do put I'll put the thing I put on it, but it's basically it's a wax material I put on it just to keep it from ripping and getting just worn and torn. But you need a waterproof container inside or a barrel. You can't just put your gear inside. It's not waterproof at all.
Yeah. There again, your backpacks, you want to make sure you're storing them dry. What about cleaning these types of things, Zach? Do you have any suggestions as far as cleaning one of these denier type of material backpacks, or
for myself or for anybody else?
For anybody else, is there anything that you would want to do? So you're saying you don't clean yours, then, right?
Honestly, it's there's not a whole lot. I mean, mild soap and water. I'm sure there's some fancy stuff you can buy, but mild soap and water, a brush to get the worst of it off, like a stiff bristle brush. That's gonna do 90% of it for you. I don't have a fancy Frost River backpack because I'm not made of money like Mr. Callan, but
all right, darn Raider salary.
Yeah. I'm still running a 20-year-old hiking backpack, and it is definitely in need of replacement, but I mean, it still works. It's seen better days, but the zippers are still functional. It hasn't fallen apart yet. This will probably be its last season if I get to use it this year, but keeping stuff clean and dry goes a long, long way. And keeping it out of the sun for sure. The sun is an absolute killer for gear.
Yeah. Before I know, John, you want to show us something, but one thing I want to pipe in too about your packs, and one thing you really want to check before you go out is check all your seams where everything is joined, where all your straps are joined to the pack. Check them to see if they're starting to pop any threads or anything like that.
Oh, for sure.
Because you may want to get them stitched up before you get out, and you go to sling it over your shoulder, and the thing pops off on you, type of thing.
It's not so much the seams; it's behind, right? So where that strap actually connects in behind the bag. Usually, it's the bag itself that starts rotting out, and that fabric, and that's what lets go and fails on you. Yeah.
Does anybody have any repair tips for the Eureka type of whitewater type of bags? The rubbery style. Because I know somebody that has one of them, and where the handle joins, it's starting to tear on them. Is there a fix for that that you know of, like some sort of plastic or rubber welding system, or is it pretty much junk?
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything that's going to be a permanent fix. Duct tape.
Yeah. Duct tape. Yeah. The red stuff.
The tuck tape for sure.
Yeah. What do you got there, John? What do you want to show us?
All right. One thing, I just want to hold this up here. This is something that's actually worth looking up. Lexel sealant. So if you do have a rubbery bag, and not the piece where you were asking about, Dennis, where where the strap comes in or something, it's not going to work for that. But it's great for waterproofing. It's great for if you have a hole in your boat. It's great for if you have a hole in rubber boots, whatever it might be. So the Lexel sealant works really well. Some of the kayak manufacturers had recommended it. In fact, Confluence, I think, had recommended it as sort of the go-to, and for sealing bulkheads, things like that. And it's great. It works really well. But what I wanted to show you was, so this is roughly a 2-year-old pack, an Osprey, and the actual model is the Exos. And you can see this is dirty. I just had it out. I cleaned this basically. I'll maybe wipe it down with water or whatever. I haven't done much with it at all. But I wanted to show this pack because not only are there no zippers on it, right? So I mean, It is one of the smartest design packs I've ever seen. And I went from 1992 until 2019 being unable to backpack, and because of an injury. And this pack allowed me to get back out again, and ultralight gear, but allowed me to get back out again. So I just wanted to share this. I'm so impressed with these packs. And then they're not waterproof, like Kevin was saying with the other pack. They're not waterproof. So, you can throw them in your gear in some light nylon sill bags or something, just little dry bags or whatever, very light ones. But you know what? Changed my life, literally. I'm able to backpack again, and I never thought I would be able to do it after the injury I had. So I just wanted to share that pack because it's amazing.
Nice.
Cool. Cool. Very cool. Alrighty. We've got two more. Just want to let everybody in the chat know we got two more sections to cover, and then some closing stuff here from Zach and John. Basically, we got clothing and footwear, and then we have axes and knives. If you're interested in learning a bit more about that stuff, stick around. We'll try not to go too much past 9:30. What are we missing here, John?
No, I'm just watching Kevin's. I don't know if Kevin's going to make it there.
Oh my Lord. Let's get going. Come on. Just cover it. Let's go.
Okay.
Clothing and footwear. You know what? Nowadays, people are really getting into their clothing, high-end clothing and footwear and things of that sort. When it comes to, different types of clothing, what should we be looking for our favorite, say, hiking pants, shirt, jackets? Who wants to take that?
Zach. Oh.
I'll start. Okay. I've got a pair of Fjall Raven pants. Which are getting to be very popular out there right now. They're an expensive pant, and you want to make sure they're taken care of. But the one thing that they do need or do require, probably, maybe it depends on how you wash them, but I'd say 8 to 10 times you use them is a good waxing. They do sell specific waxes that you can utilize to keep them waterproof. That's something you might want to do early in the season, is especially for the spring season when you could be experiencing a lot of rain, moisture, things like that you got a pair of pants that are going to keep you dry. So that's something that you might want to consider, is waxing
for sure
your pants. I seen that one coming, Kevin. What about footwear? What should we be looking at for our footwear?
Yeah, look for for springtime, a good boot, waterproof boot, Gore-Tex, that fits well, offers ankle protection if you're planning on portaging. I don't sell any boots here, but when we would go out portaging in the springtime, cold water, we would do our best to try and keep the boots dry. And if there was going to be a long portage, we would, put the boots on and away we go. And then have, a different pair of paddle shoes. But protecting from like a sprained ankle or a rolled ankle, I think is worth carrying the boots and, doing your best to try and keep them dry and avoid stepping in, in any really deep puddles. Mm-hmm. Paddling shoes, there's a lot on the market. NRS does some really fantastic ones. The Boundary boot is a really popular one for this time of year. It I think it's based off of the Boundary canoe water area, and it's like just a kind of a knee-high neoprene boot that's waterproof. It's warm. It's not going to offer much in the way of like ankle support, but it's as far as like a good canoeing or kayaking boot goes, that one's really hard to beat for this type of year.
Yeah, for sure. I guess also with the boots there, you want to make sure first off you got a pair of boots that actually feel good and are fitting well. Especially if you're a hiker, you would probably know from last season if you were developing blisters from your boots, improperly fit, what have you. Yeah. A lot of us over this whole COVID time have put on a little bit of weight. I don't know if a little bit of extra cankle in there would lend to more blisters. I know it may sound funny, but you know what? It's all a reality, right? Making sure you got good socks. Good moisture wicking sock to cut the moisture. These are all things I could think of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, going into the bottomless barrel again.
The theme of the night has been just kind of checking things over, right? Like,
yeah,
I wear my hiking boots a lot, and not just for hiking. You know, I wear them around the yard and the shop because they're comfortable and they're waterproof. Those are some good wool socks are huge. Wool Power does some amazing gear. Again, I don't know how. I mean, Kevin complains he's got no money. I mean, these must be pro deals he's getting. Those are not cheap socks by any means, but again, you know, socks, as much as I hate to admit it, are one of those things that, like, you spend the money on them, and a good pair of socks will last a long time and be incredibly comfortable. So,
Yep.
John,
This really hurts.
Another thing too is making sure that your rain gear is waterproof again too, right? Yeah. Rain gear is very important out there if you need it, and making sure that it's going to keep you dry. Just a lot like a tent, right? Can you get into waterproofing your raincoats depending on the type they are?
Absolutely, yeah. Same product as John was mentioning. Knit Wax, Gear Aid does one as well, where you have like spray-on ones, you have wash-in ones. Gore-Tex is another fabric that needs to be maintained in order to stay waterproof. Mm-hmm. So it's you're doing it a favor by washing it properly and regularly. And I don't mean regularly like weekly, but you know, kind of once a year type thing to get all the crap out of the pores of the Gore-Tex. You know, there's specific ways to treat it. You know, you can iron it on kind of a low setting. Again, be really careful and follow the manufacturer's directions. But that actually helps bring out the qualities of products like Knit Wax or Gear Aid to help restore the waterproof qualities of your jacket. Because Gore-Tex will, it's a breathable fabric. It does break down over time. It has kind of this amazing following that it's like the be all end all of waterproof fabrics, but it breaks down and it will start to weep after time. And at that point it may be too late to save it, but chances are you can give it a good wash with a proper waterproofing agent to help restore those qualities back to it again.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Well, in fashion, not to take up too much more time, we'll get on to the axes and knives, and then John is going to tell us about his oh shit kit and what we should be putting in a for the field or out in the field kit as far as a repair kit. But really quickly, this here should be a quick one. Axes and knives. Obviously, we're going to make sure that our axes and knives are sharp, rust-free. Axes and knives, you want to make sure you're oiling your handles to make sure these things are kept up, or using products like Zach and Kevin were showing us. Yep. And that's available at Frontenac Outfitters as well?
Yeah, we've got the knife and axe stuff as well. It's beauty.
There you go. For any of your axes, you want to make sure that the axe handle is well fixed within the axe head so that you don't get any floppy around. And you know what? Make sure that you're knowing what to do with an axe. Don't go out there and just start wielding an axe. If you want some great axe tips, you can go back a couple episodes of the show here. And we had an axe expert on, and he shared a lot of information about that. So
yeah, that's good. Axes are incredibly dangerous in the backcountry, so please be careful with them. They're insanely dangerous.
If you're carrying an axe into the backcountry, make sure you got one of them first aid kits that we're.
Oh my God, yeah.
And an SOS beacon, you know.
Yep. Pardon me, John.
And an SOS beacon.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Alrighty. So I guess we don't really need to get too much into axes and stuff like that, right? So
okay.
Keep
it great sharp and have fun.
Yeah. So okay, now John, with what he does with the Outdoor Kind LLC, he's put together a rather unique kit there, what he calls the oh shit kit. John, what can you tell us about that? And I will say that there is a link to it in the description below the video. So what he's going to talk about, you have access to.
Yeah. So basically, what we do is we go out and we talk about being prepped right before you go out in the backcountry, or even weekend trips, right? Even front country car camping, and what we call an oh shit emergency kit. And what we do is we think about the things that you might need to prevent a problem, so you don't have to cut your trip short. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? So we look at things to keep to tie things together, to bind things together. You look at the different things that you might need, whether you're paddling or camping or backpacking, whatever it is. And so we put a list together of that. We call it the oh shit emergency kit, because when something happens and you're the first thing you say is, "Oh shit," you got something to help you out, right? And so we put together a long list of what that is, some considerations for that, about what you do when you're getting ready for the season, why it's important to take that out, and all of these additions to the first aid kit, right? Because a lot of times it might not be for you, it might be for somebody else. And whether it's somebody you meet out on the river or on the trail or something, or whether it's somebody in your party. So what we've done is we put together that list. I can't remember roughly how many items are on there, because I'm getting old. But you can go ahead to the Outdoor Kind /blog and scroll down there, and you'll see it there. And I know Dennis mentioned it's going to be also listed here in the comments. So, yeah.
This is what it. This is just what you'll see when you go to it, and it's a few pages long, and it's definitely worth checking out. Everybody, the link is in the description below. I didn't call it an "oh shit" kit. I called it something like an "oh crap" kit, so I don't get demonetized for the video.
Sorry about
that. But yeah, by all means, go on there. It's a great resource. Thanks for putting this together, John.
Yeah, and then when we got the winter camping revisions to it, because things work differently in winter. So
for sure, that's awesome.
Yeah, cool, very good. And John, you also had you got something else new going on here. We'll get ready to wrap the show up, but you had another. Well, let's get us all back together here. There we go. I'm working with a new screen here to implement this stuff. Yeah. I'm still confused with my buttons, but yeah. So you got something new going on. What's coming down the pipe for John Van Berger?
May 4th, the Outdoor Kind is going to start a new podcast. And it's going to be not only paddling, but it will also be hiking and camping. And we're going to do the primary thing really with this is the end result is safety. So every episode will have some kind of safety focus or safety tip. So if we'll have interviews every week. And if we don't talk about, so for example, safety with an interview subject, at the end of the show, we'll have a special, special tip on that, because what we want to do, the end goal, is that everybody be safer when they're out there, right? The bottom line is, if you're safe, you can stay out and play longer, and that's really what it comes down to, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm playing the hack game. I'm getting in on this.
So May 4th, we'll start it up. It will be a weekly podcast, and yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're pretty excited. We're doing all the pre-production stuff right now.
And what podcast avenues can you actually find that through? Are there specific?
It will be on everything. Basically, once you set it up, it'll shoot out to to iTunes and across the board, Player FM, and cool. All of them. So
getting a little coaching from the boys over at Paddling Adventures Radio.
What's that?
Getting a little coaching from the boys over at Paddling Adventures Radio.
How not to do it, I think.
How not to do it. I seen Derek in the chat earlier, so there you go, Derek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in earlier. I don't know if he's still with us or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, yeah, it wouldn't make be no fun to make fun of them if they weren't here to hear it, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, we're it'll be a little bit different than what they're doing there, but we're excited about it, and yeah, so
very cool. Very cool. And one more thing too about the Outdoor Kind. Can you just tell people exactly what the Outdoor Kind is?
Sure. It's a small business that my wife and I started up. We operate pretty much like a nonprofit does. So what we do is we sell, for example, stickers, T-shirts, things like this. You can see. And what we do then is we take 100% of the funds from these, and then we channel that into outdoors education, safety education. And then in normal years, this last year we weren't able to because of COVID, but normal years then we also take some of that money and we give it to first responder groups throughout North America. So it's always a thing of the US and Canada. So that's one thing that we kind of want to mention too.
Cool. Very good. Yeah, like I say, you can find John's information in the description below, so be sure to check that out. You'll hear him frequently on Paddling Adventures Radio. And what's the name of your podcast going to be again? Sorry.
The Outdoor Kind.
There you go. There you go. Cool. And Zach, how can people find you?
FrontenacOutfitters.com for sure. You can give us a call, send us an email anytime. info@FrontenacOutfitters.com. We just launched a pretty sweet contest right now. So check us out on Facebook or Instagram. But we're essentially giving away like $750 worth of Thermarest gear. So it's pretty easy. All you got to do is sign up, and you'll get a chance to get your name pulled in the draw. The more you kind of help out and share and this and that, you'll get more entries into it. But yeah, some sweet prizes to be won. So sign up for that.
Cool, very cool. You know what? I'm gonna go sign up. I'm not an insider, so I get.
And join our newsletter too. We love it, and we try to share lots of fun video content. We're not here trying to just sell you stuff every week. We are trying to sell you stuff, but in a very educational and fun way. So
now, just for curiosity's sake, do you also offer an online store? Can people buy products?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, FRONTENAC is full e-com. We launched it before COVID, thankfully. And it's really taken off, which we're stoked. Everybody's been amazing. Like I said earlier, we've recently got into offering more camping gear, tents, sleeping pads, sleeping bags, which is all very new. So stock is probably going to look a little low this year because it's just absolutely bonkers right now. But as we test out this market and start to sell more stuff, as long as people keep buying it, we're going to keep bringing it in, and it'll just be kind of the names that we trust for sure. And then if people, if we get recommendations for other pieces of gear, then then we're happy to oblige and check out those.
That's awesome. See, Zach, the show starts getting wacky after a while. Like when the boys start getting
you hit that 2 hour mark, right? And it's like people are getting bored. So.
Well, that's awesome. You know what, Zach? Thanks very much for coming on. I know I reached out to you last minute for this, and you're a real sport in joining us. Thanks very much. I greatly appreciate it. And we will be in touch because I mentioned to you earlier, you've been on my radar, and I like to cover, different places like yourself and or people like yourself and places. And we'll be in touch for a future show.
I'll bring more hats next time.
Yeah, you know what? This isn't the first time these silly men have done this. So
John's looking a little horny tonight.
Yeah. Saw that Vaseline talk earlier.
Yeah, I missed the memo.
And Kevin, what's Kevin got going on these days besides a whole bunch of attention going on with all this dark stuff?
Yeah, I've been in media a lot actually. That's hopefully getting figured out. I haven't heard anything from Ontario Parks yet, and nobody has. So I really respect that. I really feel bad for the people working at the parks right now because it's going to be a crazy show this summer. I am doing rewrites. I just finished rewriting the winter camping book. It's going to the second edition. I'm now rewriting the Clarny French River book. So if anybody has any errors and omissions, send me a note. I'm doing that now. I'm hopefully rewriting the Lost Canoe book that's sold out as well. I'm trying to get the publisher to do that. Working on a couple other books. I don't know. I'm doing Dennis's show because he couldn't get anybody else except Zach, John, and I. That sort of thing.
You make it sound like the B team.
And here I thought I had quality entertainment going on. Wow, man. Wow, I have to second guess myself now.
Oh, man. I got to ask everybody a question here too, because does everybody? I was asking Zach here. What are the rules? So I know we're not allowed to go into Ontario parks because parks are closed. We're in a lockdown, provincial lockdown here in Ontario. John, I don't know what's happening with you, but so what? Are we allowed to go camping or what, Zach? What's going on?
Yeah. I say go camping. You're not allowed to camp in a provincial park, but if you've got somewhere that you can go camp safely, I don't see anything wrong with going outside, getting some fresh air. Obviously, if you're staying within government regulations, and enjoy yourself. Absolutely.
Because trout season is opening soon, in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And if I don't put a lure in the water, I might get to be on the unhappy camper, and
we don't want that for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there's a big portion of this is all mental health too, right? I mean, the nice weather is here, so getting outside and getting fresh air, and for you, for anybody who's listening, if that means getting outside and doing some camping, make sure you're safe. You're not putting a burden on already a stretched system, but just be responsible. Don't be an idiot. Be responsible. Don't be a jerk. Clean up your mess and have a good time.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I think I my first Algonquin trip. Hopefully, it's open on May 14th. I'm going on a week trip with my buddies. But yeah, even if I do day trips, like I got Crown Land 20 minutes from my house, so I think I'll do maybe that at least.
Absolutely.
Cool. Alrighty. All right, gents. Let's pull the plug on this show. It's been a great evening. Hopefully, everybody in the chat learned a whole bunch. I'm just going to drop you fellas down into the green room. Stick around. We'll have a little post-show chat. And then, I'll see you fellas in just a moment.
But who's going to clean up this mess?
Yeah, you are, I think. Yeah, get yourselves a beer, fellas. Okay. All right, everybody. Hopefully everybody had a great evening tonight. Like I say, these guys, they know their stuff. It was kind of great to share all these tips and everything. Get your gear all in tune. Never mind, put down that Netflix remote control and go spend some time in your gear pile, and you might be surprised at the little things that you need or have overlooked with your gear, and you might need to get them to get ready for spring. So take care of that. Get it all so that your gear doesn't let you down. Show it a little bit of tender, loving care, and you're sure to reap the benefits of that throughout the season and protect your investment. That's the big thing there, because the stuff is not cheap by all means. Anyways, just a few closing statements. We will be on next week, next Tuesday. Just working on a show there. Keep an eye on Facebook. I will be posting what is coming up for next week's show. For anybody, as I mentioned earlier on in the show or at the beginning there, we have a whole new batch of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show or Canoe Hound Adventures hats for sale. If you're interested, please do drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com and we'll get you all set up. I'll let you know what the final cost would be, but they're like $20 for the colors, $25 for the camel, and shipping. Okay, and if you do buy a hat, I'll also throw in a Canoe Hound Adventures decal pack as a little bonus for you, and that's all good. Thanks again to everybody for joining us here on this Tuesday night, and until next week, I remind everybody, please do keep the adventures alive. Have a great week.